Chapter 3375. He used the 10,000 dragons diagram with one hand. With the other hand, he waved the great spear of destruction and pointed it upwards. The seawater kept surging and a black hole appeared. Sword chi interweaved, forming a sword chi sky. What's that? Everyone looked up at the sky, not understanding what Lin Xian was going to do. But soon they screamed. Could it be? Their hearts were trembling. What's wrong with Lin Wuti? How can he evolve such a divine ability? The sword chi trembled, and a crack suddenly appeared. Then, countless sword chi interweaved, forming a pagoda. That pagoda was too mysterious and terrifying. It made people feel like it was not something from the human world. That's the hidden immortal pagoda. Isn't that Yan Nanshan's peerless divine ability? Why is he using it too? Long Shan and the others screamed crazily. They were no longer in the mood to fight. They all retreated into the distance and stared blankly at the scene. Cloud Sky Saint's pupils constricted. How is this possible? It must be an illusion. He must be deceiving me. He wanted to use the demonic left hand to dispel the illusion in the sky. But at that moment, Lin Xian's 10,000 dragons diagram was pushed out. The 10,000 dragons diagram was also extremely terrifying. Other than the demonic left hand, Cloud Sky Saint could not resist it at all. Even his sacred domain could not block the 10,000 dragons diagram. Therefore, he had no choice but to grit his teeth and attack the 10,000 dragons diagram first. In his opinion, Lin Xian was already barely able to evolve the 10,000 dragons diagram. How could he also evolve the hidden immortal pagoda? Therefore, he did not believe it. However, when the hidden immortal pagoda descended, Cloud Sky Saint's expression changed. He knew that he had guessed wrong. He could actually evolve the hidden immortal pagoda. He wanted to retreat, but it was too late. The hidden immortal pagoda hit him hard. A bloody hole appeared on his body, and his internal organs were all shattered. Ah! Cloud Sky Saint screamed crazily. His flesh and blood regenerated again, and he was as good as new. However, his face was a little pale. At that moment, the hidden immortal pagoda's second attack came. With a boom, half of Cloud Sky Saint's body, including his head, was directly blasted into pieces. Only a pair of legs stood there. Of course, his left hand was also there, emitting a pitch-black light. When the surrounding experts saw this scene, they gasped in shock. The phantom of the hidden immortal pagoda was too terrifying. Even the body of a sage could not withstand it. It couldn't be helped. Both the 10,000 dragons portrait and the hidden immortal pagoda were extreme weapons that belonged to emperors. Furthermore, the other party had used some kind of powerful means to conjure it up. Judging from how lifelike it was definitely no ordinary illusion. It was normal for a first heaven sage to not be able to block it. The little sword saint muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with shock. Long Shan and the others also became frightened. Was this the kind of person they wanted to kill? This was too terrifying. No, he had to act quickly. He had to kill the other party. Otherwise, the consequences would be endless. The four of them looked at each other and immediately attacked. Long Shan transformed into a huge dragon and stretched out his dragon claws. Desolate Overlord struck out with his 8 desolate 6 closed palms, his powerful aura looking down on everything. Yu Lingzi directly concealed himself in the void, sneaking in to assassinate. Sikong Jing shouted from above the sea. The Milky Way descends from the 9 heavens. The bright moon above the sea. The surrounding people exclaimed again. They had seen the Milky Way descends from the 9 heavens before, but they were also very familiar with the bright moon above the sea. Legend had it that this was the sacred domain of a very powerful sage. Why would it be conjured by the other party? Could it be that this Sikongjing was also like Lin Wuti and could conjure all kinds of strange phenomena? They were really shocked. However, the little sword saint said that the sage's sacred domain was indeed the bright moon above the sea. However, it was different from Sikongjing's. Sikong Jing cultivated the righteous qi of heaven and earth, so he could naturally conjure some strange phenomena. So that was how it was. The surrounding experts suddenly understood. However, at this moment, there was a shocking change in front of them. The 4 experts had joined forces to launch a sneak attack. Lin Xian had just used 2 of his ultimate techniques and didn't have any power to follow up. Boom! 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 A monstrous light enveloped Lin Xian. Everyone held their breaths. Would Lin Wuti be injured? Perhaps he would be killed. Could it be that Lin Wuti had blocked the Cloud Sky Saint's attack and died at the hands of these 4 people? Everyone was looking forward to it. Even the little sword saint's heart was in his mouth. Hee, you're dead now, aren't you? Yu Lingzi sneered. Humph, you're too confident. You didn't die at the hands of the sage, but at least you're worthy of your reputation. Long Shan sneered as well. Sikong Jing and Huang Batian also secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Wuti was still alive, which was a huge pressure for them. The 4 of you are really despicable. It seems like you've mastered the art of sneak attacks. However, do you think that the 4 of you can kill me with a sneak attack? Suddenly, a cold voice rang out. What? Yu Lingzi screamed. Long Shan and the others' eyelids twitched wildly. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. What's going on? That's Lin Wuti's voice. Damn it, could it be that he's not dead? But how is that possible? Even a sage would be seriously injured if he was ambushed by them. If he's not dead, he might be seriously injured. They comforted themselves. However, when all the energy disappeared, they were completely dumbfounded because they realized that there were no cracks on Lin Xian's body. How is that possible? Is he really not injured? At this moment, Yu Lingzi raised his hand and looked at his dagger. In the next moment, he was scared out of his wits, because there was not a single drop of blood on his dagger. Not only that, there were a few cracks on it. Although it was small, it was like a bolt out of the blue in his eyes. Not good. Retreat quickly. This person is a monster. His physique is probably stronger than an ordinary sage's. The 4 of them quickly retreated. Boom! However, it was too late. The 10,000 dragons portrait directly blasted the 4 of them away. The 4 of them were instantly torn into pieces, their bodies turning into a bloody mist. Some of the bloody mist was even destroyed by the 10,000 dragons portrait. No, damn it, stop, you can't kill me. I was wrong. Ah! The 4 of them screamed crazily. However, at this moment, the hidden immortal pagoda in the sky fell and was about to destroy the 4 of them. However, at this moment, Cloud Sky Saint made his move. He snorted coldly and attacked with the left hand of the demon again, blocking the hidden immortal pagoda. The remaining 4 of them were wrapped in the remaining blood and fled into the distance. Although they were seriously injured, they could still recover with their strength. The 4 of them directly tore through the void and fled into the distance, not daring to stay any longer. Lin Xian did not chase after the 4 of them. Instead, he stared at Cloud Sky Saint, because, in his opinion, the 4 of them were weak. They were just ants. Chapter 3376. Cloud Sky Saint's face turned green because he realized that Yan Ryu was also looking at him. Damn it, I can't even defeat one Lin Xian, and now I have to add Yan Ryu to the mix, he said. Kid, if you have the guts, let's fight one-on-one. Lin Xian laughed loudly. What did you say? You want to fight one-on-one with me? Do you have the guts to say that? I'm a half-saint and I'm very young. What about you? You've lived for 1,000 or 2,000 years and you're a saint. Where did you get the guts to say that? The surrounding people's mouths twitched. Indeed, if a saint said to a half-saint, let's fight one-on-one, it would be bullying. Wasn't this bullying? He reckoned that the saints would lose all their face. As expected, Cloud Sky Saint's face darkened when he heard that. However, at that moment, Lin Xian laughed loudly. Don't worry, I'll be merciful and fulfill your wish. I can still kill you one-on-one. You're courting death. Arrogant kid. Go and die. Cloud Sky Saint was completely enraged. To tell the truth, saying that he wanted to fight one-on-one made him lose face. However, compared to his life, he didn't care about losing face. As long as he could kill Yenryu, he would still be a saint and Yenryu would be a lonely ghost. The demon's left hand struck out fiercely, while Lin Xian controlled the illusions of the two extreme Dao Emperor weapons to fight against it. In the end, after 36 moves, Cloud Sky Saint's body was smashed apart again. Only the demon's left hand was still intact. At that moment, Lin Xian directly waved the 10,000 dragons diagram and rushed forward. The dragon's sword soul roared and transformed into countless sword lights. This time, it went all out and quickly wiped out Cloud Sky Saint's blood. Cloud Sky Saint was so scared that he peed his pants. If it was anything else, he wouldn't be afraid because he was a saint. However, when the dragon's sword soul appeared, he was so scared that he peed his pants. The piercingly cold sword chi caused a saint's blood to be constantly wiped out and disappeared. If all of his blood was wiped out, he would really die. Hence, he fled like a madman. His blood scattered into countless pieces and flew in all directions like a rain of blood. However, the great dragon sword spirit was even more powerful. It transformed into countless beams of sword chi. In the end, Lin Xian formed a seal with his fingers, and a sword seal was imprinted in the void. This scene was the same as the little sword saint's 10,000 sword art. Countless sword chi trash rushed out together with the seawater of the void sea. Cloud Sky Saint screamed. Most of his saint blood had been destroyed. The remaining saint blood would not be able to escape. However, before Lin Xian could do anything, Cloud Sky Saint screamed. His remaining blood was absorbed. No, damn it, what's going on? He screamed like a madman, and the people around him were stunned. Did Lin Wuti use some powerful means again? Lin Xian also stopped and frowned. He did not use any techniques, so what was going on with Cloud Sky Saint? It was the devil's left hand. He finally discovered that terrifying demonic runes had appeared on the left hand of the devil. He sucked the rest of the sacred blood into his body. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Cloud Sky Saint let out an angry roar. Damn it, how could this happen? He was really shocked. After he obtained the devil's left hand from the devil altar, he was overjoyed. With his strength, he could continue attacking continuously. Moreover, he had many treasures on him that could restore his strength at any time. Hence, the devil's left hand was like a sacred weapon to him. As long as he was not dead, he could use it. However, he realized that he did not understand the devil's left hand at all. At the last moment, the devil's left hand had absorbed his blood. What was he trying to do? Was he trying to come back to life? Or was he trying to do something else? Or was it something that was controlled by someone else? Cloud Sky Saint did not know that the last of his blood had been absorbed by the devil's left hand. As for him, he had disappeared into thin air. In the end, he did not die in the hands of Lin Xian. Instead, he died in the hands of his own weapon. Looking at this scene, the surrounding people were stunned. Previously, they were envious of the devil's left hand, but now the devil's left hand was floating quietly in the void sea. However, no one dared to step forward. Buzz! Lin Xian raised his golden hand and grabbed the devil's left hand. Then he pulled it in front of him and looked at it carefully. What a magical item! It could even kill a saint. He cast a few seals and sealed the devil's left hand. He felt that this was a treasure. He had seen it before. Cloud Sky Saint was not as strong as him, but after taking out the devil's left hand, he could injure him. This was definitely a godly weapon. If used well, it would not be weaker than a sacred weapon. Yenryu frowned. This item is weird. Are you sure you want to use it? Lin Xian smiled. It's fine. I'll study it first. Anyway, I can't leave this good item to others. He kept the devil's left hand. After that, Lin Xian and Yenryu started to wait. The surrounding people also started to move away from them. They were all watching from afar with bewilderment. Nobody dared to move forward. Even the little sword saint had left, because he had suffered a huge blow after watching this battle. After about half a month, the blood-red whirlpool slowly disappeared. The dark red divine dragon and the North Beast's figure also appeared. The two of them laughed excitedly when they came out. The crimson dragon roared, "This is great. The demon saint's blood is indeed useful to Ben Huang. Ben Huang is almost at the saint realm now. The dragon blood in his body is unusually strong." On the other side, the North Beast smiled satisfactorily. His thousand-beast body was even more mysterious. Obviously, the blood-red whirlpool had given the two of them great rewards. The group left again. Everyone had gained something. Lin Xian also obtained the water Dao stone. So he was left with one last target. That was the statue of the great saint. However, Lin Xian did not know where it was at the moment. But thinking about it, the statue of the great saint could suppress the terrifying demonic qi. Even the Langius star wanted it. It was definitely an extremely precious treasure. If there was one, it must be in the deepest part of the void ocean. So the group identified the direction and set off towards the depths of the void ocean. On the other side, Long Shan, Huang Batian, and the others fled quickly. They only heaved a sigh of relief when they realized that no one was chasing after them. Then they used their trump cards and treasures to recover their bodies. The four of them were extremely pale, without a trace of blood. The recovery this time had damaged their foundation. It seemed that after returning, they would have to go into seclusion for hundreds of years to completely recover. Damn it. How could that guy be so powerful? Long Shan gritted his teeth. Huang Batian and the others also looked gloomy. Sikong Jing's expression was cold. However, at this moment, his eyebrows twitched, because his family's sound transmission array rang. After hearing the sound transmission, Sikong Jing's expression changed. "Everyone, I have something to do. I'll take my leave first." Then, without waiting for their response, he controlled a few Milky Ways and quickly shuttled through the sea. Soon he disappeared. Chapter 3377. What's wrong with this guy? Yu Lingzi frowned. Could something have happened? Long Shan also said coldly, "What could have happened? It was probably something related to their family." Huang Batian said, "The Sikong family was not ordinary. It was rumored that the space-time family had come this time to find their family's saint's relic. It was rumored that a very powerful saint of the Sikong family had entered the void ocean and even opened up a space. It was said that he had left behind countless treasures. This legend had been circulating in the Sikong family. Therefore, every time the void ocean opened up, the Sikong family would send a large number of powerhouses to explore. This time was no exception. Looking at Sikong Jing's expression, could it be that his family had discovered some breakthrough? It's really possible. Why don't we follow them and take a look? Yu Lingzi suggested. Long Shan and Huang Batian also nodded. The three of them hid their auras and flew into the distance. Sikong Jing flew very fast because he was extremely excited. Just now, the formation sound transmission was indeed given to him by his family. Moreover, the content made his blood boil because they had finally found the relic left behind by their saint. He was too excited because there was a legend that had been circulating in his family since he was born. Basically, Sikong Jing would hear the elders of his family mention this legend every few years. Therefore, Sikong Jing was very familiar with this legend. It was said that the Sikong family used to be very powerful and was a top family. There was a saint in the family who had cultivated to the great saint realm. A great saint was the pinnacle of the saint realm. He was only one step away from the great emperor realm. Such combat strength was enough to laugh at the starry sky. However, for some reason, this great saint had suddenly gone to the void ocean when he was at his peak and never returned. Since then, the Sikong family had suffered a disastrous decline. Although it was still a big force now, it was not comparable to its heyday. Later, It was rumored that their great saint did not die, but opened up an independent space in the void ocean. It was rumored that he had established his own force. Therefore, the Sikong family had been searching for the spatial treasure left behind by the great saint for so many years. This time, they had found an important clue, so they hurriedly summoned Sikong Jing. Thinking of this, Sikong Jing's speed increased. Finally, after flying for about 3 days, Sikong Jing finally arrived at his destination. In front of him, there were many people standing there. Those people were the powerhouses of the Sikong clan. They were gathered together at this moment, and there was an array beneath their feet. Everyone was trembling with excitement, as if they were waiting for something. When Sikong arrived, they raised their heads. He was here. Everyone looked at Sikong Jing. Sikong Jing also asked, "Elder, have you already found the clues? Why haven't you started?" "I was just waiting for you. Your bloodline is purer. We need your blood, plus ours, to activate the spell formation and connect to the clues left behind by us great sages." Okay, Sikong Jing didn't refuse. He directly cut his palm and dripped his purest blood onto the formation. The surrounding powerhouses of the Sikong clan also cut their palms, and all the blood dripped down. The formation beneath his feet also lit up with a crimson light. The surrounding sea started to tremble violently. In the next moment, a shocking muffled sound rang out and almost overturned all the powerhouses from the Sikong clan. What happened? Sikong Jing's eyes widened and his face was pale. The eyes of those experienced powerhouses lit up. It was done. They finally found the clue. Before they finished speaking, more and more rumbling sounds rang out and spread out in all directions. "Oh no, it's too loud." Sikong Jing's expression changed. However, those experienced powerhouses said, "It's okay. We've already set up the formation to cover the sky." But before they finished speaking, the surrounding formation shattered with a bang, and an increasingly violent aura swept out in all directions. "Damn it, this force is too strong. It's destroying our preparations and the formation we set up. It'll probably attract others. What should we do? Should we stop it? Or should we set up a new formation and try again?" Someone suggested. However, those powerhouses said there's no other way. Once this thing is activated, it's out of our control. We can only resign ourselves to fate. Besides, even if other people are attracted, so what? Our Sikong clan isn't afraid of anyone. This belongs to our clan. Would others dare to take it? Speaking of this, a cold, murderous intent burst out from their eyes. The surrounding Sikong clan martial artists all calmed down and waited patiently. Behind them, Long Shan and the other two stopped, looking bewildered because they felt an extremely terrifying aura in front of them. There seemed to be an illusion between heaven and earth. What's that? They widened their eyes because they found that a pagoda had appeared in the sea. It was a blue pagoda, and it looked very similar to the illusion of the hidden immortal pagoda. At first, they thought that it was Lin Wudi or Yan Nantian fighting there. However, after careful identification, they found that it wasn't them. That blue pagoda wasn't the hidden immortal pagoda, which made them sigh in relief. What kind of pagoda is this? Could it be that the treasure in the void sea has been discovered? It was very likely that it had something to do with the Sikong clan. Thinking of this, Long Shan and the other two were ecstatic. They sped up, lurked more carefully, and rushed forward. At the same time, the people in the surrounding sea also felt it. They felt a violent fluctuation and thought that there was an underwater earthquake. However, in the next moment, they saw an illusion of a pagoda in the endless distance. It was indomitable, as if it was going to pierce through the entire sea. Heavens, what's that? The aura is too terrifying. Is it the hidden immortal pagoda? No, it's not the aura of a battle. It's a majestic aura of righteousness. A rare treasure of heaven and earth must have appeared. Hurry up and charge. Such a treasure is definitely at the level of a sage. Not only that, it's definitely not left behind by an ordinary sage. Even those sages would be jealous if they saw it. At this moment, the Vermilion Bird Palace, Dark Moon Temple, Dragon Valley, Eight Wind Palace, and all the other major forces moved out. The surrounding families and powerhouses also moved out. They had no choice. They had been here for so long, but they had never seen such a phenomenon in the Void Sea. Lin Xian and the others naturally saw it as well. Instantly, their faces were filled with shock. What a powerful energy wave and aura fluctuation. And this phantom, it's too frightening. They could see it from so far away. The North Demon and the others were just right. Lin Xian was overjoyed. Wasn't this direction the depths of the Void Sea? Moreover, looking at this scene, it was very likely to be related to the great sage statue. He said, "Let's speed up and take a look. Perhaps we can find some unexpected clues." Chapter 3378. By the time Lin Xian and the rest arrived, 5 days had already passed. Countless experts and family clans had already appeared. Their gazes were all fixed on the blue pagoda in front of them, and in front of them stood a group of people, staring coldly in all directions. Those people were from the Sikong family. They looked as if they were facing a great enemy. To be honest, they didn't expect the great sage pagoda's illusion to attract so many people's attention. And there were too many people. They had been full of confidence before, but now they were full of bitterness. If it were just 1 or 2 forces, they would definitely be able to hold them off. But there were too many people now. A single smear could drown them. But they weren't too worried because if there really was a treasure, these people wouldn't gather together to form a force. They would definitely fight for themselves. And when that time came, the Sikong family would still have a huge advantage. More importantly, this was a treasure left behind by their ancestor. They had the power of their bloodline. This advantage was too great. Thinking of this, they all calmed down. Between heaven and earth, the blue pagoda became more and more solid. In the end, it really seemed to appear. That majestic aura made everyone feel that they weren't facing a pagoda, but a supreme immortal mountain. They couldn't help but want to tremble and worship it. What was going on? Some of the newcomers were baffled, but there were also some experts from the big families who looked solemn. One of them said, "I think it's very likely that this is a great sage pagoda." The people around the great sage pagoda gasped. The title of great sage wasn't just for show. Only an extremely powerful sage could become a great god. Every great sage was an earth-shattering figure. They were all candidates who had the potential to become great emperors. But a great sage pagoda had appeared. The surrounding people's eyes instantly burned with passion. The Crimson Dragon, the North Demon, and Yenryu were also very surprised. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Could it be that the statue of the great sage was in there? Was that what he was looking for? What an unexpected surprise. But what was going on with the Sikong family? How could they be so close and not be affected? The surrounding people also wanted to go forward. But when they felt the majestic power of heaven and earth, they didn't dare to go forward. If he tried to break through, he would probably be torn to pieces. This was because another strong cultivator from the Sikong family's great sage tower had spoken. What? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding people immediately went crazy. How was it possible that the Sikong clan had a great saint? The Sikong clan had a supreme saint. Would they still be with them? The Sikong clan had indeed produced a great sage. Moreover, it was a very terrifying great sage. However, that great sage had disappeared for hundreds of thousands of years. That was why the Sikong family had declined. Even so, it was still a very terrifying family. One could only imagine how terrifying their clan's foundation was. Yes, I've also heard rumors that the great sage of the Sikong family disappeared after entering the Void Ocean. The Sikong clan had always wanted to enter the Void Ocean to investigate for tens of thousands of years. Every time the Void Sea opened, they would frantically search for it. Who would have thought that they would finally find it this time? Lin Xian and the others were shocked. They didn't expect there to be such a secret. It seemed that the statue he was looking for was the statue of the great sage of the Sikong family. After all, it was impossible for the void ocean to have two great sages. That would be too shocking. Kid, it seems that this is the target you're looking for. However, the situation isn't good. There are too many people here. The dark rainbow divine dragon muttered softly. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. With their strength, they wouldn't be afraid of anyone. Besides, they only wanted a statue, and not their great sage inheritance. They probably wouldn't care. There were probably many treasures inside. When the time came, there would definitely be a big fight. At this point, Lin Xian looked around. He saw Sikong Jing, Long Shan, Huang Batian, Yu Lingzi, and the others. However, he frowned slightly. He didn't see Yan Nantian. How could it be? How could Yan Nantian not appear in such a scene? Or was it that Yan Nantian had already arrived? However, Yan Nantian had used a secret technique of the great emperor to disguise himself and appear near him. Thinking of this, his gaze turned gloomy. Did Yan Nantian also know how to hide? Previously, Yan Nantian was incomparably strong. He didn't hide his strength and directly used the divine beast phantom and the 9 great emperor runes. The aura that he emitted made it obvious that he was the successor of the great emperor. However, Yan Nantian was hiding his strength. Perhaps he was traumatized after being killed a few times? Humph! Lin Xian snorted. Whether it was a sneak attack or a head-on confrontation, Lin Xian wasn't afraid of Yan Nantian. Yan Nantian was probably terrified of him, so he didn't care. The most important thing now was how to enter the Great Sage Tower and obtain the Great Sage statue. Everyone waited for another 7 days. During these 7 days, the phantom of the Great Sage Tower became more and more solid. On the 7th day, it finally appeared in front of everyone. It was no longer a phantom, but a real existence. The Great Sage Tower's terrifying sage aura was even more terrifying. Everyone retreated far away and frantically resisted. This was a great sage, a powerful existence at the 9th heaven of the sage realm. Even a 1st heaven sage would be scared to death, let alone a 9th heaven sage. However, the aura of the Great Sage Tower gradually retracted. Although it was still terrifying, it was much better than before. This made everyone heave a sigh of relief. If it had been like before, no one would have been able to enter. Perhaps it was because the Sikong family was here. The Great Sage Tower had probably sensed the aura of the Sikong family, so it didn't release the power of heaven and earth so violently. The Sikong family members stood at the front, bewildered. Although some of the younger disciples wanted to enter, they were firmly held back by the experienced powerhouses. They knew that now wasn't the time. However, while the Sikong family members didn't move, someone else did. Among them, a half-sage with mountain-like strength said coldly, "Hee, why aren't you going in?" They were really a bunch of cowards. Now that the Great Sage Tower's aura had disappeared, it was the best time to enter. As he spoke, he stomped his foot and rushed forward like a small mountain. His target was the entrance of the Great Sage Tower. The entrance was very majestic. It was at least 100 meters tall and 50 meters wide. There were ripples on it, and it was abnormally simple and mysterious. When they saw someone barge in, everyone's eyes focused on it. It was a half-sage with a tempered body. It looked like he was very strong. Would he be able to enter? Everyone became nervous. The tall half-sage looked at the entrance in front of him and shouted, "Then I won't be polite." Countless law fragments appeared on his body. They were like shields that firmly covered his body. This was a half-sage with the law of earth. In an instant, he arrived at the entrance and stepped in with 1 foot. However, in the next moment, he screamed. Chapter 3379. That was because the foot he had used to enter was instantly turned into ashes. Not only that, but his entire body was also cut into a bloody mist. Then, it dissipated between heaven and earth. A semi-sage expert had been killed in a matter of seconds. It had happened in the blink of an eye. This astonishing scene had made many people hold their breaths. However, there were also some powerhouses who sneered. How could it be so easy to enter a great sage's pagoda? Everyone waited patiently. In fact, many people didn't know what they were waiting for, but no one dared to try. However, after a day, the Sikong clan made their move. They were using their own blood. Outside the great sage pagoda, especially the edge of the entrance, which was smeared with blood. It seemed that they wanted to use their own blood to gain the patriarch's approval, so that they could enter. Seeing this scene, the others felt uneasy. If only the Sikong clan went in, and the others could only watch from the outside, it would be really awkward. When that happened, they would be jealous to death. The Crimson Dragon was also a little worried. Damn it, can't we try again? He was also a little impatient, but Lin Xian held him back. Don't be anxious, wait and see. There are so many people who want to make a move. We'll just watch. He wouldn't force himself. However, at this moment, when the Sikong clan's blood dyed the entrance red, a shocking change occurred. Suddenly, a vortex appeared at the entrance, and a terrifying fluctuation spread out in all directions. Everyone thought that it was some kind of attack, so they all retreated. However, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. It turned out that what appeared from the vortex wasn't an attack, but pills. One pill after another, densely packed together. There were more than 100 of them. Every single one of them was crystal clear. This was a sage's pill, possibly a pill refined by a great sage. Someone screamed, and the others all looked up at the sky. Their eyes turned blood red. Pills, what a pleasant surprise! They originally thought that there was no hope of entering, but they didn't expect the Sikong clan to cause such a change. So many pills had been spat out. More than 100 saint pills. If he were to obtain one and consume it, his fighting prowess would increase tremendously. Even if he didn't consume it himself, he could still bring it back to the elders of his clan. Thinking about how they would be heavily groomed by their families in the future and how they would soar into the sky, they all trembled with excitement. Hurry up and snatch it. These people were crazily trying to snatch it. Heavenly Dragon, Divine Claw. The Crimson Dragon couldn't wait any longer. When he knew that this was a sacred pill, he attacked decisively. Countless dragon claws appeared in the sky. Damn it, get out of here. Many people attacked madly, but the Crimson Dragon roared and blasted them away. At this moment, the Crimson Dragon's strength had greatly increased after the cultivation of the demon blood. Lin Xian, Yan Ruyu, the North Demon, and the others all took action as well. However, when they got 20 of them, they stopped decisively. He didn't attack again, because if they snatched it all away, it would definitely lead to a group attack. With so many experts around, it would not do them any good to continue fighting. They might as well quit while they were ahead. More than 20 pills were equivalent to getting 1/5 of the total. They were already satisfied. As expected, although some people were unwilling, they still gave up when they saw Lin Xian's lineup. Moreover, there were more than 80 pills around. If they fought with all their might, they might still have a chance. In an instant, the others attacked crazily. The people from the Sikong family also roared. Damn it, stop. This is our item. They were truly infuriated. They had used their own blood to create this. The Great Sage Tower was originally their Sikong family's private property. But now, who cared if it belonged to their family? The surrounding people were already jealous. It was already good enough that they didn't attack the Sikong family directly. In the end, the remaining sacred pills were divided among the people from the Sikong family: Vermilion Bird Palace, Dragon Valley, Dark Moon Temple, and 8 Wind Palace. Only a dozen pills were left, and they were scattered in the hands of the others. They couldn't accept it. They couldn't accept it. Many people roared crazily. How could there be enough to go around? They stared ahead with greedy faces. At this moment, The people from the Seekong family were about to enter. Because they didn't get much before, it wasn't enough to go around. So they decided to go in. Many people surrounded them when they saw the scene. The people from the Seekong family sneered. "Can you enter? If you can't, stay here. If you dare to come out, we'll kill you." The people from Dragon Valley said coldly. The people from Eight Wind Palace also said, "Yes, you'd better cooperate and find a way to let us in. Otherwise, none of you will be able to leave the Void Ocean." His voice was extremely domineering. The people from Dark Moon Temple and Vermilion Bird Palace also looked unfriendly. The surrounding people were also eyeing them covetously. It seemed that if they couldn't enter, they would really stay here until the end of time. Seeing this scene, the young disciples of the Seekong family looked extremely upset. The powerhouses had said that they didn't need to care about them. Just let them in. So what if these people went in? The other party wasn't from the Seekong family, so they definitely wouldn't have an advantage over them. Therefore, the people from the Seekong family ignored them and walked straight ahead. The people behind him followed, closely behind. Lin Xian and the others were also following, closely behind. However, after walking for a while, they stopped. Many people behind them shouted angrily, "Damn it! What's going on? Is the Seekong family going back on their word?" They were afraid that the other party would shake them off. However, the voice of the Seekong family came from the front. "3 paths have appeared in front of us. Which path should we take?" "What? 3 paths?" Some people were shocked. Could they be lying to us? However, at this time the people from Dragon Valley and Eight Wind Palace also said that there were indeed 3 paths. "Damn it! Shut up! Otherwise, we'll kill all of you." As soon as these words were said, everyone fell silent. The people from the Seekong family also frowned. 3 paths had appeared in front of them. Which path should they take? They sensed it carefully and even used their bloodline power to test it. However, they found that the 3 paths were exactly the same. They couldn't tell which path was which. This scene surprised them. However, in the end, the people from the Seekong family decided to split into 3 paths. One group would be able to enter. This was the safest way. Seeing that the Seekong family had split into 3 paths, the surrounding people hurriedly discussed. Soon, the people from Vermilion Bird Palace, Dark Moon Temple, and Dragon Valley also decided to split into 3 paths and followed closely. They wouldn't let go of any possibility. "Boy, what should we do?" the Crimson Dragon asked. Chapter 30, 380. Lin Xian looked at Little White. Little White also shook its head. It couldn't see clearly. It was too chaotic. Lin Xian sighed. It couldn't be helped. Even Little White couldn't see clearly. One could imagine how powerful the great saint was. He said, "Looks like we have to split into 3 groups. How about this? I'll take one, Ruyu will take one, and you and the North Demon will take one. This way, we won't be left empty-handed." Just as the Crimson Dragon and the North Demon were about to leave, Lin Xian was stunned. He said, "Come here." Hearing this, the Crimson Dragon was stunned. They returned to Lin Xian's side again. "What's going on? What happened? Didn't they say they would each take 1 path?" "Kid, what did you find?" they asked. Lin Xian said, "Something's wrong. Look at Seekong Jing." He looked up at Seekong Jing and found that he was surrounded by many strong cultivators of the Seekong family. They seemed to be protecting him. "What's going on? Didn't you notice?" Previously, Seekong Jing was the one who drew blood first, and then the other families did it. This meant that Seekong Jing's bloodline might be very pure in his family. Hearing this, the North Demon and the other 2 took a deep breath. They knew this situation. Even in the same family, there are differences in bloodlines. Obviously, Seekong Jing's identity was very special. "Kid, do you mean we should follow that guy?" the Crimson Dragon asked. Lin Xian nodded. "Yes, we should follow them." Although the Seekong family was divided into 3 groups, It was obvious that Sikong Jing's path was the most likely to reach the destination. He's taking the east path. Let's follow him. Speaking of this, Lin Xian strode forward. Yanruyu and the other two also took a deep breath and followed. Originally, every road was very crowded. At the moment, Lin Xian and the others were heading east, which immediately caused many people to be dissatisfied. "Damn it, get out of here!" One of the half-saints roared. He didn't even look back. He just slapped back. In this place, it didn't matter who they killed. They wouldn't show any mercy. This palm strike was extremely terrifying. The 5 fingers seemed to have turned into 5 stars, blooming with extremely dazzling light. This was the 5-star fist. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. This was an expert. Who was it that dared to provoke such a person? In the next instant, they were stunned because they discovered that the 5-star fist was being held by a large golden hand. Crack! The fist turned into a bloody mist, and the half-saint who used the 5 elements boxing was sent flying by the slap. "Get lost." His voice was cold and domineering. Who was it? Many people sucked in a breath of cold air and turned their heads. They saw a young man in a red robe with a cold expression. Beside him, there were a few figures with equally powerful auras. When they saw Lin Xian, many people's expressions immediately changed, as if they had seen a ghost. They turned around and left. "Hey, where are you going?" Some of his companions exclaimed. "The men were so frightened that I didn't go in. They did not even turn their heads." Some of the others were also stunned. What was going on? Could it be that these people were very powerful? Not everyone had seen the faces of Lin Xian and the others, so some people were still puzzled at this moment. Lin Xian didn't say anything, but the Crimson Dragon next to him jumped out and roared. Those who didn't want to die made way for Ben Huang. This move could be said to be extremely arrogant. Everyone present was a half-saint expert. Who would be willing to make way for someone else? Immediately, some people sneered. "Make way? Do you believe that I won't skin you and make you into a boot? Boot your ass." 8 styles of the heavenly dragon. The Crimson Dragon roared, and 8 dragon shadows appeared from its body, instantly sending those who sneered flying. Those people were blasted into pieces, and blood dyed the area red. The others were also so scared that their scalps went numb. Damn, this method is too powerful, isn't it? The half-saint who used the 5-star fist earlier also gritted his teeth. "Boy, which family are you from? Do you dare to tell me your name?" Around him, 3 more experts from the 5-star sect appeared. Each of them had an unfriendly look on their faces. Countless stars appeared on their bodies, causing everyone's expression to change. 5-star alignment. The light on their bodies actually gathered together, forming a terrifying array. The 5 of them roared. The 5-star alignment was like a sharp knife rushing over. Many people around were sent flying by this force. Boom! Lin Xian opened the sky with his left hand. His golden fist was like a sun, and it quickly blasted over. It collided with the 5-star alignment. Suddenly, a terrifying force swept out, causing the surrounding people's expressions to change. Previously, they only wanted to enter the Great Sage Tower. Although there were conflicts, they didn't fight. However, this sudden surge of energy caused everyone's expression to change. They all looked over. In the sky, the golden sun directly smashed the 5-star alignment. Not only that, those experts were also sent flying while vomiting blood. Their faces were filled with horror. Not only them, but the people around them also fell down, creating a vacuum. Lin Xian led the group forward. Soon they reached the front. In front, the Sikong family members also frowned, but they didn't care. They let the people behind them fight. It would be best if they killed each other and died together. Only the Sikong family was left. But at this time, Sikong Jing's body trembled as if he was being stared at by a pair of eyes. The next time he turned around, he was so scared that his scalp went numb. "Damn it, it's you." He screamed like a madman. What's going on? Jing, or who is he? Why is Sikong Jing so scared? The experts of the Sikong family also frowned. It shouldn't be. Sikong Jing's strength was very strong. He was definitely at the top of the half-saints. Even if he encountered a saint, he could deal with them. But now, this person made him so scared. They also turned around and saw that the other party was a very young man. Was this Yen Nantian? Could it be that this great emperor's successor was already so terrifying? Or was he a saint? They couldn't understand. However, Sikong Jing's voice trembled. Elder, hurry up and leave. He's Lin Wudi. What? He's Lin Wudi? The elders of the Sikong family also twitched their eyelids. They had heard of his name long ago. This was the first time they saw him. Now that they saw him, he was indeed powerful. Ordinary half-saints couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. Looking at Sikong's fearful expression, could it be that their genius had actually been defeated by the other party? Thinking of this, their faces darkened. But now was not the time for them to think too much. Let's go. They supported Sikong Jing and sped up. Let's follow. Lin Xian and the others followed closely behind. Soon they all rushed forward. The people behind were stunned. God, Lin Wudi. Was that person Lin Wudi? Chapter 30, 381. If he entered that passage, could it be that he knew where the real passage was? Quickly go to that passage. In an instant, many people rushed over, and the battle erupted once again. Get lost. Damn it, I'll go in first. Damn it, if anyone dares to enter, I'll cut them in half. The crazy battle sounded behind them, but it had nothing to do with Lin Xian and the others. Lin Xian and the others followed Sikong Jing and entered the eastern passage first. After flying for about half a day, they felt that the area in front of them was wide, and there seemed to be a blue light screen. When they passed through the light screen, they found that there was no passage ahead. Instead, it was a vast hall. Was this the inside of the Great Sage Tower? After entering, the Crimson Dragon and the others looked around in amazement. The inside was much wider than what they saw from the outside. As expected of the Great Sage's work, there was a space inside. Lin Xian frowned. Was there a natural law here? He had experienced the Devil Cultivation Valley. He naturally knew that the natural law in the Devil Cultivation Valley made some of the powers outside unable to be used. Was the inside of the Great Sage Tower that terrifying? He silently sensed. The experts of the Sikong clan in front of him were trembling with excitement. Ha, I feel it. I feel the same bloodline power as our clan. This must be left behind by our great sage. As he spoke, he turned his head and looked at Lin Xian and the others who came in later. He sneered. What do you have to fight us here? A mere Sikong clan dares to be arrogant in front of me? The Crimson Dragon sneered. Lin Xian opened his eyes and frowned. He had already felt that he was being suppressed. His power had been reduced by 30%. But was it a natural law? There were no restrictions. Anyone could use it. Immediately, Lin Xian reminded them to be careful. Their power had been reduced by 30%. He didn't know if the Sikong clan had any restrictions, so they shouldn't rashly start a fight. Hearing this, the Crimson Dragon, Yen Ruyu, and the others frowned. This wasn't a good thing, but they quickly shook their heads. This was because everyone would be suppressed, not just them. Sure enough, the people who came in later also cried out in surprise. They naturally felt that the power was weaker than before and were extremely surprised. The members of the Sikong clan all laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, we weren't suppressed. We weren't suppressed. Instead, we felt that our strength had increased. Me too. As expected of a great saint of our Sikong clan. He's so protective of us. They're really too happy. Looking at the people around him, he laughed coldly. Damn dance. I'll let you know what despair is in a while. In this place, they seemed to be the masters as they laughed heartily. When the surrounding people heard this, their expressions changed. But soon their eyes lit up. That row of bookshelves. Were those divine ability manuals? Someone said. He rushed over like a gust of wind. On the other side, someone asked, where are the weapons? Divine weapons? They flew to the other side. In an instant, everyone who came in went crazy. The reason for that was because they discovered that it was simply a treasure trove. Damn it, stop! This is all ours. The powerhouses of the Seekong family roared madly and rushed over, wanting to stop them. In an instant, the battle started again. It was very intense. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He looked up at the sky because he was looking for the statue of the great saint. However, the void here was very strange. He could only see the third level. He didn't know if there was anything above the third level. It seemed that he had to go to the third level first, and then look at what was above. Thinking of this, he said, "Are you guys going to collect treasures here, or go to the upper levels to take a look?" Let's go to the other levels. There's so many good things on the first level. The other levels will definitely have better things. The Crimson Dragon said. The others also nodded. Lin Xian and the others prepared to go to the other levels. They weren't the only ones. The powerhouses of the Vermilion Bird Palace, Dragon Valley, and Eight Wind Palace were also not satisfied with the treasures on the first level. Along the way, they saw that the entire ground was made of top-grade metal. Even the surroundings were carved out of huge pieces of divine crystals. It was really extravagant. One had to know that divine crystals were cultivation resources in their hands. However, they were actually decorative items here. It had to be said that this state of mind was different. Just as Lin Xian and the others were about to enter the second level, the little white monkey suddenly pointed to a dark place behind the stairs. There seemed to be a strange energy fluctuation there. Hearing this, Lin Xian and the others frowned. He said, "Let's go in and take a look." Anything that could attract the little white monkey's attention was definitely not ordinary. They rushed in and found a secret door in the darkness of the stairs. The door was dim and hidden in the shadows of the stairs. No one noticed it at all. Lin Xian and the others turned their heads and found that no one was paying attention to them. It seemed that those people were crazily fighting for treasures. They were all in a frenzy. "Let's go." Lin Xian and the others were very fast. They entered the secret door in an instant. Then the Crimson Dragon cast a few seals. After entering, they heaved a sigh of relief. Then they looked around. There was a room inside. The whole room was dark green. There was no light, but it gave off a very simple aura. There were no treasures. The Crimson Dragon lost a circle. He found that there were no pills, weapons, or manuals. He was a little disappointed. However, Yenryu said, "How can there be no treasures? There are circles on the walls." The Crimson Dragon glanced and found that there was a painting on all four walls. It was a landscape painting. This aura was not ordinary. It carried the aura of Tao and an extremely shocking power. Could it be that this was the work of the great sage? Thinking of this, they gasped. They could actually see the great sage's notes in person. It was definitely not a small matter. No wonder it could attract Little White's attention. It was so messy here. Let's put it away first and look at it when it was safe. The Crimson Dragon waved its claws and wanted to grab one of the paintings. However, it was bounced away by a force. "Damn, it hurts Ben Huang." The Crimson Dragon gasped. Lin Xian said, "Since we can't take it away, let's study it." Lin Xian looked at the four paintings. These four paintings were all different. One of them was an endless mountain range. It was densely packed and hidden in the clouds. At the right end of the painting, there were words carved with Tao runes. The mountains were small at a glance. The second painting was of countless flowers. They were as bright as blood and had an indescribable aura. It made people uncomfortable at first glance. That painting was also carved with Tao runes. The chaotic flowers were mesmerizing. The third painting was a vast expanse of green. It seemed to be a painting of the sky. The words formed by the Tao runes were difficult to reach. Chapter 30, 382. The fourth painting was of 2 rows of mountains that stretched into the sky. Among the mountains, there was a river flowing down from the sky. The river flowed into the great desolate current. When Lin Xian and the others saw these 4 paintings, they gasped and looked at each other. These 4 paintings depicted the natural scenery of heaven and earth. But why did they feel that there was an evil aura? It should be the handwriting of a great sage. Why don't we study it? Yan Ruyu said after looking at it for a while. She looked at the river flowing into the great desolate current. Then, I'll look at this. The crimson dragon looked at the sky. The northern demon chose to use flowers to dazzle the eyes. Lin Xian took a deep breath and stood in front of the painting. He felt as if his soul had been sucked into the painting. He didn't seem to see that there was a brush gently touching him. In front of him was a vast expanse of white, and mountains suddenly appeared. Lin Xian seemed to be standing at the peak of the mountain. He now felt that his state of mind had changed. In his eyes, everything became tiny and insignificant like an ant. He was like a high and mighty god who could control everything. This change was really magical. It made him a little greedy and lost in it. However, at this moment, the great dragon sword soul in his body roared, causing Lin Xian to instantly wake up. What a strange painting! Although it had endless power and made people yearn for it, there was also a force that seemed to want to lock people in the mountains. Indeed, there was a hint of strangeness. However, so what if it was strange? A great sage was not someone they could understand. This ability to see how small all the mountains are really was a type of divine ability. This divine power didn't directly attack people. Instead, it used one's aura to change. Once it was used, it would be like an ant meeting a dragon. It would make the enemy tremble and unable to resist. The people of the Situ family cultivated the righteous qi. The Langistar also said that the great sage of the void ocean was a great sage who cultivated the righteous qi. He could use the righteous qi of heaven and earth to suppress the demonic qi of the Langistar. It seemed that this was the painting of the great sage. Lin Xian began to comprehend this realm with all his might. However, he remained vigilant and prepared to use the great dragon sword soul at any time. The evil aura just now was really too strange, but fortunately, under the calmness of the great dragon sword spirit, Lin Xian did not lose his mind. After an unknown amount of time, he came back to his senses and took a deep breath. Was the view of all mountains small? It was indeed magical and terrifying, as expected of the great sage's generosity. He looked at the other 3 and discovered that they were also infatuated. He coldly snorted, and the great dragon sword spirit circled around them. Suddenly, the 3 of them woke up. Among them, Yan Ruyu didn't seem to be affected too much. However, the Crimson Dragon and the North Demon both looked terrified. His back was drenched in cold sweat. Damn it, what's going on? What just happened? They felt a lingering fear. It was as if their souls had fallen into the abyss and would never be able to escape. Fortunately, Lin Xian had intervened. At this moment, Yan Ruyu spoke up. There was something wrong with these paintings, even though they were the work of the mysterious great sage. Although they were created by the great sage, there was an evil power in them. Fortunately, as long as we can carefully overcome this evil power, the rest can still be used by us. At this point, Yan Ruyu's lips curled into a smile. I've indeed obtained some good things. They're different from the previous ones. You don't say, me too. The Crimson Dragon and the North Demon also nodded. They were also extremely excited. It could be considered a mystique, but it was more like a kind of artistic conception. Once it was used, it would definitely be extremely powerful. Crack! At this moment, the paintings on the wall rolled up on their own, as if they were not allowed to look at them. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian and the others did not mind. The great sage's mechanisms were so ingenious. If they were not allowed to look at them, they would not even be able to look at them. Therefore, Lin Xian said, "Let's go." When they came out, they happened to meet a few people who wanted to go to the second level. Immediately, they stared at Lin Xian and the others. Damn it! How did they get to that place? Was there anything there? These people instantly surrounded them. Many of them endured it and found that there were only a few paintings around, but they were hung up. They tried for a long time, but they could not open them. Instead, they were sent flying by a force. Other than that, there was nothing else. Damn it, they must have taken the treasures. The surrounding people roared crazily. One of the sages had an extremely cold expression. Damn brat, speak, what did you get? Hand it over, and I'll spare your lives. There were also 2 clones of the sages who laughed sinisterly. Why waste time talking nonsense with them? Just capture them, collect their souls, take their bodies, and take away their storage rings. There were more than 10 figures around them, and they pressed forward together. Among them were the sages and their clones. This aura was too powerful. However, at this moment, Lin Xian took a step forward, and an extremely cold light burst out from his eyes. The mountains were small. Countless mountains seemed to have appeared under his feet, and these mountains directly enveloped the sages in front of him. Immediately, the sages' expressions changed. Damn it, what was that? The sages roared crazily, and the surrounding people were even more terrified and trembling. They seemed to be standing at the foot of the mountains and looking up at the gods. At that moment, Lin Xian's aura was rising infinitely. Lin Xian's eyes were so domineering that it was as if he was a supreme king looking down on ants. Plop, plop. The surrounding experts all knelt on the ground and trembled. This aura was simply unstoppable. The clones of the sages felt their scalps go numb. Even the sages were sweating profusely, and their robes were all wet. He had seen such a situation before, but that was only when facing extremely terrifying sages. The brat in front of him was a half-step sage. No matter how powerful he was, he should not be able to suppress him in terms of aura. But now his entire body was trembling, and he did not dare to resist at all. Was this what it meant to see the mountains were small? The Crimson Dragon and the others were also extremely surprised. At this moment, Yanruyu made a move. Then try my river flows into the great wilderness. As she spoke, countless mountains appeared on both sides of her, and there was only one large river under her feet. The river water was too violent, and it swept toward those experts in an instant. With a boom, the surrounding half-step sages were all swept into the water, and they let out miserable cries. The sages' bodies also trembled. Damn it! They gritted their teeth and roared crazily. However, the river was too terrifying, and it kept retreating toward them. They had to run. These people were too strange. The sages took the lead to escape, and the others were scared out of their wits. Trying to escape was harder than ascending to the heavens. The Crimson Dragon roared and soared into the sky. A blue sky appeared below it, as if it was the firmament that enveloped these people. These people found it difficult to move. Damn it, why couldn't they move? They were all stunned. What kind of method were these people using? Could it be that this was the treasure they obtained in that room? Chapter 30, 383. Haha, look at my mesmerizing flowers. The North Demon also walked out. His 1,000-demon body shone brightly. With a wave of his hand, countless beautiful flowers bloomed around him. The petals danced in the air, forming an illusory formation. The half-saints inside were all stunned. They seemed to be lost in it. Some of them even laughed foolishly. However, behind the illusory formation was a terrifying, murderous intent. The petals suddenly turned into peerless hidden weapons that pierced through their foreheads. Even the saint was hit and let out a miserable cry. He desperately burned his saint blood and rushed out of these strange scenes before escaping without a trace. One of the 2 saint avatars exploded and escaped with the power of self-destruction. However, the other one was left behind. It was surrounded by countless beautiful flowers and couldn't escape at all. The remaining powerhouses were either dead or injured. The four of them used their new ultimate moves. The power was extraordinarily terrifying. Ha 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 ha, this feels so good. The Crimson Dragon kept roaring. He was too excited. Lin Xian was also shocked. Although he knew that it was powerful, he was still shocked when he used it against someone. Even a saint couldn't resist it. The great saint's work was too powerful. He didn't know if it was carved or drawn casually. If it was drawn casually, it was definitely extraordinary. Let's go. Lin Xian and the others retracted the vision and walked towards the second level. They didn't know if there were any treasures left behind by the great saint. When they reached the second level, they stopped. They found that the second level was filled with seawater. It wasn't ordinary seawater. It should be the essence of the void ocean that had been refined by the great saint. Therefore, it was abnormally terrifying. At this moment, it was like a heavenly river that blocked their path. It was the water of the Milky Way that blocked everyone's path. For a moment, no one dared to go forward. However, after Lin Xian and the others arrived, many others arrived. When they saw the Milky Way in front of them, they sneered. What's the big deal? Let me do it. 2 water-type half-saints came out. They moved quickly, and fragments of the law of water rose from their bodies. Then they laughed loudly and walked forward. In an instant, they seemed to have turned into water gods. They were extremely agile as they entered the Milky Way. However, as soon as they entered, they let out miserable screams. The Milky Way water stirred and swallowed the 2 water-based half-saints. Then there was no more sound. Everyone was so scared that their hair stood on end. The newcomers felt their scalps go numb. 2 half-saints died just like that. Moreover, he was a half-saint who was proficient in water. Heavens, what kind of water is this? Someone in front sneered. Do you think we won't go if it's so easy? This is something refined by the great sage. How can you imagine it? The person who spoke was a sage. After the others heard this, they didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. They all waited silently. However, at that moment, the people from the Sikong clan moved. It's almost done. We can go now. They used the blood to surround themselves and then walked forward. Sure enough, he was fine. On the other side, the experts from Vermilion Bird Palace, Dragon Valley, 8 Wind Palace, and Dark Moon Temple also made their moves. They didn't have the bloodline of the Sikong clan, but they seemed to have found a flaw. Everyone's path was very winding. It was as if the Milky Way in front of them was an array. As long as they passed through it cleverly, they wouldn't be injured. The people behind also tried to enter, but most of them didn't know the mystery inside at all. So, they were swallowed up in minutes. Of course, there were also a few sages who relied on powerful weapons and strength to forcefully resist. The remaining people had extremely ugly expressions. Those who could pass were all powerful sages or top sects like Vermilion Bird Palace. The others didn't have such strength. Could it be that they would be trapped here for the rest of their lives and could only watch those people fight for the treasure? They were unwilling to accept this. However, at that moment, a few people said, "Get out of the way. We want to pass through the Milky Way." Hearing this, the others all turned their heads, for figures walked out. The 4 of them had their backs to them, but they all looked very young. Such people dared to cross the Milky Way? What kind of joke was this? Who were these people? Did they have a death wish? Yes, they weren't sages at all. Moreover, if they were disciples of a top sect like Vermilion Bird Palace, they would have followed them. The people in front of them were obviously itinerant cultivators. Everyone sneered. They looked at the backs of the 4 people, ready to see how they would die. However, the 4 people ignored them. Among them, Lin Xian said, "What do you think? Did you see it clearly? We have a rough idea, but it'll take some time to study it carefully. I think with our strength, we can still resist it for a while." Lin Xian nodded and said, "Ruse along. Use the heaven-crippling chessboard as a formation. We'll support you in battle and force our way through." The Crimson Dragon instantly played the heaven-crippling chessboard. Immediately, Lin Xian and the other two jumped on it and flew towards the Milky Way. There are really people who don't know what's good for them. The people behind sneered. Soon, they were stunned because they discovered that the person could block the Milky Way's water and was quickly crossing the Milky Way. That was an array formation. They were using an array formation. Get on that array formation, quickly. We can follow them. Suddenly, hope rose in everyone's heart. Previously, whether it was Dragon Valley, Bahuangdong, or the Sage, they did not dare to talk to them. But now, there were only 4 of them, and they were using an ingenious array formation that made them tempted. In an instant, many people rose into the air. Kid, take me over, and I'll give you a weapon. Let me go up, and I'll teach you a superpower for free. Kid, you'd better let us go up obediently. Otherwise, we'll pull out your tendons and rip your bones out. Some of them were trying to lure him, but most of them were threatening him. In their opinion, with so many of them, it would be easy to threaten him. Hearing those voices, Lin Xian did not even turn his head. Come up if you want to die. Scram if you don't want to die. Oh my, what an arrogant tone. The people behind were furious. Although they could not cross the Milky Way, it did not mean that they were weak. Those who could enter this place were all powerhouses with tricks up their sleeves. At that moment, they were being berated by a young man who did not even turn his head. Was he looking down on them? In an instant, those people were furious. Damn it. Let's join forces and capture this kid. Let's make them use the array formation to help us cross the Milky Way. Immediately, 8 powerhouses jumped out. Their bodies emitted rays of light that swept across the entire space. The 8 of them cast 8 seals and sealed the entire space. They wanted to seal Lin Xian and the others. Chapter 30, 384. Do you want to die? Lin Xian snorted and turned his head. His qi and blood were like dragons, and an extremely terrifying sword gushed out and swept in all directions. That aura was so terrifying that everyone's expression changed. They seemed to have an illusion that they were not facing a young man, but a saint. At that moment, Lin Xian had truly unleashed his power. His black hair danced wildly, and his eyes were like divine swords. The sword aura on his body was like a dragon. It let out a terrifying roar and directly shattered his seal. The 8 experts who were about to attack immediately stopped. Their hearts were filled with shock, and their bodies were trembling. He was too strong. He was actually able to shatter the seal that they had formed together in an instant. The others screamed, "What? It's him, Lin Wudi. That person is Lin Wudi." The surrounding people sucked in a breath of cold air. The 8 experts who attacked were about to cry. They dared to cause trouble for Lin Wudi. Were they tired of living? They quickly shook their heads. Lin Gongzi, we were wrong. Please spare us, Lin Gongzi. 2 of them even knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing. When the other 6 saw this scene, they also knelt in the void. Their hearts twitched. If Lin Xian wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. They could avoid death, but they could not escape punishment. They would lose 100 years of cultivation. Lin Xian flicked his finger. A sword wave rushed out and hit the 8 of them. The 8 of them screamed and retreated. Every one of them was injured, and there was a terrifying sword mark on their bodies. That sword had seriously injured them, and even damaged their foundation. They would not be able to recover without 100 years of cultivation. Lin Xian was too decisive, and they could not resist at all. However, the 4 of them did not dare to have any thoughts of revenge. Because their opponent was Lin Wudi, they could only thank the young master for sparing their lives. Lin Xian snorted coldly, turned his head, and put his hands behind his back. They controlled the heaven-crippling chessboard and quickly crossed the Milky Way. The people behind them were all stunned. He was too strong. He suppressed all of them with a raise of his hand. Children should be invincible like Lin Wudi. Those experts were envious. The others were also silent for a while. Yes, if any family had a genius like Lin Wuti, that family would definitely soar to the sky. Lin Xian and the others used the heavenly crippled chessboard to cross the Milky Way and head inside. Soon, they passed through the second level and arrived at the third level. From the looks of it, there was only one Milky Way on the second level, which blocked everyone's path. After reaching the third floor, Lin Xian's group stopped. The Sikong clan and those powerhouses who had gone there before were also here. These people were all looking around, and many of them were even looking up. Lin Xian also raised his head and looked up. When he was on the first floor, he could only see the third floor. He couldn't see anything beyond the third floor. Now that he had arrived at the third level, he naturally wanted to take a look. What was above the third level? However, after taking a look, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Above the third level, there was actually a passageway. The surrounding walls were all flickering with light. They were completely made of divine crystals. There were also some rare metals, which were excellent materials for refining half-saint artifacts. It could be said that they were precious treasures in the eyes of a half-saint, but here they were casually made into walls. The method was very extravagant. The engraved patterns on the walls were also very profound, flickering with incomparably mysterious power. Even on the walls there were sunken holes, and each of them had an item placed on top. Some were weapons, some were bottles of elixirs, some were scrolls of paintings or jade slips. It was obvious that these were all treasures stored here. Each treasure was sealed and could not be taken. Only by breaking the seal could one obtain it. The Crimson Dragon, next to him, also looked up and exclaimed. The carvings were magnificent, and the light made it seem like the sky was full of gods and Buddhas. Indeed, there was something at the top. Yanryu was also surprised. Lin Xian activated the heavenly secret, godly eyes, and looked carefully. The next moment, his pupils shrank. Did he find it? He saw that on the 7th level, which was the top of the pagoda, there was a statue floating in the void. It seemed to be suppressing the entire pagoda. The statue was blue all over, but it was very simple and unadorned. From this angle, Lin Xian could only see the lower half of the statue. But with just a glance, he felt the vastness of heaven and earth, as if that person could suppress all things in the universe. The statue of the Supreme Saint. Yes, it must be the statue of the Supreme Saint. Lin Xian clenched his fists. It seemed that that thing was his ultimate goal. He had to find a way to get it. However, before he could do anything, the people in front turned their heads. They did not expect that there would be someone behind them. For a moment, they looked at him. Many people's expressions changed. Lin Wuti, they exclaimed. Among them, the faces of Long Shan, Yu Lingzi, and the others became incomparably ugly. However, the experts of their sex snorted coldly, and their eyes were gloomy. Was this person Lin Wuti? He was much younger than they had imagined. At this moment, a young figure walked out from the Sikong family at the front. It was Sikong Jing. Sikong Jing said, "The Sikong family is willing to join forces with the major sects and the sages. However, other than the sages and sects that are on par with our Sikong family, I don't want anyone else to appear here." When he said this, he stared at Lin Xian and the others. Immediately, everyone turned their heads to look, and a cold smile appeared on their faces. They knew that Sikong Jing's words were directed at Lin Wuti. However, they were very puzzled. With Sikong Jing's status and strength, shouldn't he join forces with all of them to deal with Lin Wuti? Could it be that there was a secret behind this? Before they could figure it out, Long Shan, Huang Batian, and Yulingzi also walked out. That's right, I agree. We are all the top forces. Why should we let a few insignificant, itinerant cultivators come here to share the treasures with us? Why don't we join forces and get rid of them? Yes, these people are all treasures, especially Lin Wuti, who is the successor of two great legacies. A fiery light also burst out from Long Shan's eyes. The experts of the major sects all frowned. What was going on? These 4 young people wanted to join forces, and they wanted to join forces with all of them. It shouldn't be. After all, whether it was Long Shan, Huang Batian, Yu Lingzi, or Sikong Jing, each of them was an unruly, peerless genius. They even thought that they were not inferior to Yen Nantian. Why would such a person join forces with others? This was an extremely shameful thing. But now, not only did the 4 top prodigies want to join forces, but they also wanted to join forces with the veteran experts. Could it be that Lin Wuti was already this terrifying? Chapter 30, 385. When Lin Xian heard this, he burst into laughter. Although your excuses are dignified, you still can't hide the fear in your hearts. You 4 pieces of trash escaped from my hands last time, so I didn't continue to pursue you. Why? You still dare to find trouble with me now. Do you think that the elites of your family are here? Do you think that I don't dare to kill you? Lin Xian looked around, and a cold, murderous intent burst out from his eyes. Long Shan and the others were so frightened that they took a few steps back, and their faces turned ugly. The elites around them sucked in a breath of cold air. What was going on? Could it be that they had all suffered at the hands of the other party? At the thought of this, their scalps went numb. This Lin Wuti, how much has he grown? What nonsense! An elite from the Dragon Valley stood out and shouted coldly, Lin Wuti, you think too highly of yourself. Do you think that the elites of the Dragon Valley can't beat you? We just don't want to waste our energy. That's right. The elites from the 8-Wind Hall also stepped out. There is no need to fight one-on-one against you. We have the absolute advantage. Just kill him. Why bother talking to him? The elites from the Dark Moon Temple also stepped out. They also did not believe that their elites would lose to the other party. They were also unwilling to admit this fact. Lin Xian sneered. Why? Are you wavering in your heart? You still want to kill me? Ask yourselves, do you dare to fight one-on-one with me? I can crush them to death with just one hand. Lin Xian looked at Long Shan and the others with a look of disdain. The elites from the 8-Wind Hall were so angry that they vomited blood. But soon, their expressions became extremely ugly. At this point, their elites did not refute. It was unbelievable. Unless their elites were really defeated by the other party, and it was a crushing defeat that left an indelible shadow. What was going on? The elites from the 8-Wind Hall looked at Long Shan, Huang Tianba, Sikong Jing, and the others. Long Shan and Huang Beishan's faces were ugly, and their lips were trembling. Could it be that they had to admit it in public? They weren't a match for the other party, and they were even torn apart by the other party's single move. Were they almost killed? They could not bring themselves to say such words. However, at that moment, Sikong Jing stepped forward and let out a cold laugh. Kid, I'll fight you. Last time, we were careless and suffered at your hands. This time, I will prove in front of all the elders and experts that you are no match for me. Hearing this, the crowd gasped. Was Sikong Jing going to come out? Long Shan, Huang Batian, and Yu Lingzi exchanged glances. Where did this guy get his confidence from? However, they soon recalled that this place was no ordinary place. Inside the Great Sage Tower, there was a bloodline bonus for the Sikong clan, while there was a power suppression for everyone else. In this way, the gap between the two sides would be very obvious. If no one was from the Sikong family, then it was fine. However, if they were to fight against someone from the Sikong family, they would be at a disadvantage. This was probably why Sikong Jing dared to come out at this time. Lin Xian looked ahead and sneered. Oh, you want to fight me? You don't have such courage outside. What? Do you think you can challenge me in your family's Great Sage Tower? Do you think you are a match for me just because my power is suppressed by 30% and you have a bloodline bonus? Let me tell you, even in the Great Sage Tower, you are still no match for me. Lin Xian's words were quite arrogant. This was equivalent to directly provoking the Sikong family. The Sikong family was furious. Damn it! How dare this kid be so arrogant in front of them? They might not be able to deal with him outside, but in the great sage tower, who would dare to go against them? As long as it wasn't a group attack from so many large sects. The Seekong family had never feared anyone. They did not care about a mere Linwoody. Jing or fight him. Let him know the power of the Seekong family. An elder of the Seekong family said. Seekong Jing's lips curled into a smile. Elder, don't worry. I have the same idea. He is definitely no match for me. Well, I'll take this opportunity to see what Linwoody is capable of. Around them, the elites of the Dark Moon Temple and Dragon Valley also looked unfriendly. They all looked at the two people in the arena. Dragon Valley and the others narrowed their eyes. This might be a chance to use the space-time mirror to kill the other party. Thinking of this, they all looked forward to it. Damn it, this guy is too despicable and shameless. He is like a coward outside, but he dares to show off in front of me here. I really want to slap him to death. The Crimson Dragon snorted. Yenryu and the North Demon also frowned. Lin Xian smiled. It's okay, let him do it. An ant will always be an ant. No matter where he goes, he will never be able to make a comeback. Does he really think that he can be bullied by shrimp soldiers and crab generals just because he is a dragon? I will prove it to him with my strength. Come on, let me see what gives you the right to be arrogant here. Lin Xian looked forward. Humph. Seekong Jing snorted. He didn't say anything. Instead, he took a step forward. Light burst out from his body and engulfed the entire space. At this moment, he was like a ruler, bringing with him a powerful force. Even the surrounding Great Sage Tower became brighter. Seeing the reaction of the Great Sage Tower, the elders of the Seekong family all laughed. In their opinion, how could they lose in their territory? Milky Way fall. Seekong Jing roared. The void split open and 9 Milky Ways descended. Each one was like a silver dragon, bringing with it a powerful aura. There was even a trace of blood-red light on the silver dragons. That was the power of the bloodline. Longshan and the others frowned. The power of the Milky Way fall was much stronger than outside. That's right. Coupled with the suppression here, Linwoody might really be in trouble. Yu Lingzi sneered. Linwoody's power was suppressed by 30%. If Seekong Jing's bloodline power was increased by 30%, then the difference between the two would be 6 levels. No matter how strong Linwoody was, he wouldn't be able to make up for the difference of 6 levels. He would definitely die this time. Oh, his power is stronger than before? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. No wonder the other party dared to be so arrogant. However, it was still not enough. Even if the other party's bloodline increased by 30%, so what? It was still not enough. He roared, and the power in his body surged. His 9-yang divine body released billions of rays of light. He waved his arm, and the powerful force turned into countless blue rays of light, forming a huge wave vortex that spun around him. The law of water? Many people frowned. The other party didn't use the 10,000 dragons diagram to attack, but the law of water. Wasn't that too careless? The Seekong family sneered. Let's see how you die later. Chapter 30, 386. In the sky, 9 huge cloud dragons rushed over and collided with the black vortex in an instant. They let out a loud dragon roar as if they wanted to tear the vortex apart. However, the vortex was extremely terrifying. There was a trace of black aura in the blue light. When the black aura came into contact with the silver dragons shrunk rapidly as if they had come into contact with lightning. It was as if the vortex had swallowed up the Milky Way. In the end, the sea vortex was still spinning, but the waterfall of 9 silver dragons had disappeared, leaving only a trace of aura between heaven and earth. It was still not enough. Lin Xian shook his head with a hint of mockery. Damn it, how could it be? The surrounding people were stunned. Seekong Jing's expression also changed. His expression became extremely ugly. He gritted his teeth and said, "I don't believe it. I can increase my strength by 30% here. I don't believe you can withstand it." Bright moon above the sea. He roared and activated the power of his bloodline. A bright moon appeared in the vortex of the sea. As soon as the bright moon appeared, it brought with it a powerful force that kept crushing Lin Xian. It wanted to crush Lin Xian into a bloody mist. Boom! In an instant, the terrifying moon jumped out of the sea and collided with Lin Xian. Instantly, there was a violent roar. The front was shrouded in an endless flow of energy. "He hit him. That's great," everyone exclaimed. The people of the Sikong clan even smiled. At such a close distance, he was hit by the bright moon above the sea. Even if he did not die, he would be torn apart. Let's see how arrogant this kid is this time. Is that all he has? Is this the effect of increasing his strength by 30%? How pitifully weak. At this moment, a faint voice was heard. Everyone saw a huge golden hand tearing apart all the energy. Lin Xian's body only shook in the violent collision. Then it stabilized as usual. This scene caused everyone to scream like they had gone crazy. "That's impossible." Sikong Jing was flustered and could not believe it. If such a scene had occurred outside, he would have to admit that his strength was indeed inferior to the other parties. But now they were in the Great Sage Tower. He had a 30% bloodline bonus, while his opponent's strength was suppressed by 30%. There was a difference of 6 levels of strength between the two of them. Could it be that he couldn't defeat the other party? This was absolutely impossible. Had the other party already surpassed him by so much? He didn't dare accept it. The others were stupefied as well. The great sex experts and elders sucked in cold breaths of air. How could it be like this? They had thought of countless possibilities before, but they had never thought of such a possibility. This was simply too unbelievable. No wonder their geniuses, such as Long Shan and Huang Batian, didn't dare say anything. It seemed they really had been defeated by invincible Lin. Furthermore, it should be a crushing defeat. Right at this moment, Lin Xian spoke. "Is this the power of your augmentation? How pitifully weak. Do you intend to use such a trump card against me?" "No. Damn it. I don't believe it." Sikong Jing roared as if he had gone mad. The wind and clouds shook the 9 heavens. He waved his hands, and suddenly the wind and clouds and the void changed as if they were going to sweep through the 9 heavens. This power was too terrifying. It could split the heavens and earth. Go to hell for me. The terrifying wind and clouds shook the 9 heavens, completely enveloping Lin Xian. This was a great mystique. It was even more terrifying than the previous 2 phenomenons. Humph! Lin Xian snorted. He directly used his fist to transform into a Kuan-Peng. The Kuan-Peng was incomparably majestic. One side was as black as ink, while the other side was as golden as light. It soared through the 9 heavens and tore the wind and clouds apart. Bang! 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 Sikong Jing also took 3 steps back. His face was pale, and his hands were trembling uncontrollably. An ant would be an ant. Even if they were in another place, they still wouldn't be able to shake the giant dragon. "I'll show you how big the gap between us is." Lin Xian took a step forward and looked down at the mountains. Endless mountains appeared around him, like a bottomless abyss. Lin Xian was like a god on top of the mountain, looking down at the bottom. Sikong Jing was shrouded by this mysterious power. He looked at the phenomenons and couldn't help but tremble. He finally couldn't help but kneel on the ground. What? Sikong Jing is kneeling? The surrounding people went crazy. They would believe it if Sikong Jing was defeated. But kneeling? How could that be? Sikong Jing was a peerless genius, and he had his own pride. Even if he died, he wouldn't kneel. However, it was too strange for him to do so. The people of Sikong Jing's family were even more shocked. A few of them roared, "Damn it, Jing, or what are you doing? Why are you asking him to kneel? Stand up." Two of them quickly walked forward, wanting to take Sikong Jing away. However, they were shrouded by this strange phenomenon as soon as they came forward. In the next moment, they felt the world spinning. The power made them float. They could hear the same sound in their ears. Damn it, this power! They were too shocked. Now they finally knew why Sikong Jing was kneeling on the ground. This kind of floating power was simply irresistible. Bang, bang! The two of them also unconsciously knelt on the ground and trembled. This scene was like a clap of thunder, causing the surrounding people to be stunned. The members of the Sikong clan were even more shocked. Even their other two powerhouses had knelt down? What kind of spell was this? It was too strange. This brat is too strange. I suggest that we work together and take him down. An elder of the Sikong family shouted coldly. The surrounding people also nodded. The people of the Vermilion Bird Palace were the first to express their opinion. They couldn't help but want to take action. They had a strong hatred for Lin Xian. After all, he was a member of the Vermilion Bird Palace. As for Lin Xian, he had slapped the Vermilion Bird Palace hard in the face back on planet Sidaku. Now that they had a chance to hit him while he was down, they naturally had to do their part. After receiving the support of the Vermilion Bird Palace, the people of the Sikong family calmed down a bit. It looked like they really had to capture this brat. They also wanted to know what kind of secret this brat had. The powerhouses of the Dragon Valley, the Eight Wind Palace, and the Dark Moon Temple all walked over. At this moment, the atmosphere was extremely tense. Do you want to fight? Then come at me. Lin Xian laughed loudly. His aura became even more violent. It was as if the Celestial Emperor had descended. We won't bully you. Each sect will only send one person. If you can survive, then consider yourself lucky. The person from the Vermilion Bird Palace sneered. Hearing this, the Crimson Dragon was enraged. Bah, you shameless people. You still say you're not bullying? You've all lived for thousands of years, right? In total, you're almost 7,000 to 8,000 years old. You're almost 10,000 years old. You still have the nerve to attack a young junior? Also, how many of you are there? The 5 of you joined forces, and you still say you're not bullying? Since you're already so shameless, then admit it. The North Demon also snorted. His expression was filled with disdain. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such shameless people. Lin Xian laughed loudly. Don't worry, I won't bully you. I'll give you 3 moves. Chapter 30, 387. Lin Xian's words were like a painful slap to the faces of the 5 powerhouses. What could they do? They were so shameless. Junior, go to hell. The 5 of them were furious. Since they had decided to act shamelessly, they didn't need to worry about anything. BZZZ. That expert from the 8 Desolation Hall raised his hand and took out an ancient mirror. That ancient mirror was incomparably simple and bronze in color. It was extremely terrifying. It was a terrifying weapon in the Bahuang province. The 8 Desolation mirror carried a terrifying desolation aura. As it flowed, the surrounding void shattered continuously. Boom! Lin Xian didn't say anything. He raised his fist and punched. His golden fist was like a sun as it collided with the light from the Bahuang province. An earth-shattering sound could be heard. A terrifying energy swept in all directions. At that moment, Lin Xian heard a terrifying voice behind him. Dark clouds covered the city. It was the strong cultivator from the Sikong clan. A dark cloud appeared above his head, and it contained a strange qi. It was also the strength of the earth and sky. Lin Xian smiled coldly. According to the legends, the Sikong clan practiced the qi of the earth and sky. Surprisingly, the Sikong clan practiced the qi of the earth and sky. What a disgrace to the Sikong clan's reputation. Today, I'll help the Sikong clan get rid of you. As he spoke, Lin Xian struck out with his palm, which transformed into a piercingly cold sword aura. With an insufferably arrogant aura, it slashed towards the black cloud. Boom! An earth-shattering sound spread in the air as the dark cloud was cut in half. However, Lin Xian's sword qi was also swallowed. What a strong physique, but you should try my strength. A loud shout rang out, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Then, a fist that resembled a dragon head flew towards Lin Xian. Obviously, the person who had such a strong body was a strong cultivator from the Dragon Valley. You think I'm afraid of you? Lin Xian clapped his hands and blasted out another attack. This time, there wasn't any special light. It was the power of his body being used to the extreme. Boom, boom, boom. A deep voice rang out, like a muffled thunder exploding on the ground. Then the two figures retreated. Lin Xian swung his arms, and the aura on his body grew even stronger. On the other side, the powerful beings of the Dragon Valley found it hard to believe. His arms were trembling, and he couldn't lift them. He was very strong and a peerless genius. But a genius who survived was a true genius. If he died, he would be nothing. At this moment, a shadow silently appeared behind Lin Xian. Like a grim reaper, the dagger in his hand slashed across the back of Lin Xian's neck. The Dark Moon Temple would definitely kill. Lin Xian also felt a chill run down his spine. He had to admit that this expert from the Dark Moon Palace was very good at assassination. However, it was still impossible to kill him. With a cold snort, Lin Xian did not even turn his head around. Incomparable sword aura burst out from his body, densely packed together. In particular, a golden light rushed out from the back of his head. It was piercingly cold and roared like a giant dragon. With a loud boom, the dagger was sent flying. The Dark Moon Temple expert was also pierced by the sword qi. Blood splattered everywhere. In the blink of an eye, the experts of the 4 great sects and families had all made their moves. However, they were unable to do anything to the other party. Instead, some of them were injured. This scene caused the expert from the Vermilion Bird Palace to be dumbfounded. He didn't even have time to attack when he saw this frightening scene. Now it's your turn. Lin Xian took the initiative to attack. Using the Kuan Peng movement technique, he attacked the Vermilion Bird Palace expert in an instant. The Vermilion Bird Palace expert trembled all over. A sense of fear enveloped his heart. However, he soon gritted his teeth and roared. Divine red blood palm. His palm turned blood red. It was the blood of the vermilion bird. The blood was incomparably terrifying. When he sent out his palm, it turned into a small blood-red world and directly engulfed Lin Xian. This was also a powerful ability. The divine red blood palm could forcibly refine a person's qi and blood. It could be said to be incomparably vicious. Let's see how you block it, kid. The Vermilion Bird Palace expert sneered. Even a saint would be injured when he sent out his palm. Those below the saint level would definitely turn into a bloody mist in an instant. They would not be able to escape. Roar! The blood-red world spread. However, a terrifying dragon's roar came from inside. Immediately, the entire blood-red world shook violently. Many terrifying cracks appeared on it. Finally, it split open with a boom. Lin Xian charged over with a sword light in his hand. With one strike, he shattered the other party's small blood-red world. Not only that, the other party's palms were also split in half. Ah! The Vermilion Bird Palace expert screamed and retreated. His face was extremely pale. He stared straight ahead. How was this possible? The other party broke his divine red blood palm so easily? In the next moment, when he saw the weapon in the other party's hand, he was stunned. The great spear of destruction. He finally screamed. The 5 of you are only SOSO. You want to kill me? You're too naive. Damn it. All of you attack and kill him. The Vermilion Bird Palace expert roared crazily. 2 more figures stepped forward beside him. Their auras were not any weaker than the first one. Not only the Vermilion Bird Palace, but the Dragon Valley, the Dark Moon Palace, the Eight Wind Palace, and the Seekong family also stepped forward. This time, there were more than a dozen experts. A group battle? The Crimson Dragon roared. Its body turned into a giant dragon and coiled in the air. The North Beast activated the body of 10,000 beasts. The sky-reaching divine tree appeared behind him. On the other side, Yenryu's eyes also shone with a cold light. Kill! Someone roared. A great battle instantly broke out. More than a dozen experts fought with Lin Xian and the other three. The commotion was extremely frightening. In fact, there were even saints who were secretly making their moves. Obviously, their main goal was to capture Lin Xian. This was because Lin Xian had the most treasures on him. The two great inheritances made the saints jealous. Terrifying energy, fluctuations spread down from the third floor. Fortunately, this was the Great Sage Tower. Everything was a supreme saint's relic. Therefore, even if these people attacked with all their might, they wouldn't damage it at all. However, the space inside the Great Sage Tower was torn apart. Those on the second floor, and even the first floor, could feel the terrifying fluctuations from above. The fluctuations almost made their scalps split open. It was terrifying. They were now somewhat glad that they didn't go up. Otherwise, the energy shockwaves would have destroyed them. Lin Xian was very powerful. He held the Spear of Destruction and swept it in all directions. Any theurgy that came close was directly shattered by him. However, at that moment, the gloomy laws struck his arm, causing it to tremble. The Spear of Destruction almost flew out of his hand. Damn it, a saint had made a move, and it was done in secret. Lin Xian looked around and looked at the remaining saints in the distance. There was a cold smile in the saint's eyes. At this moment, the sky split open. Another law palm directly grabbed at the Spear of Destruction. Chapter 30, 388. The Crimson Dragon and the other two also roared angrily. Obviously, they had also been ambushed by the saints. If they hadn't cultivated the great sage's painting and learned these heaven and earth phenomenons, they would have been seriously injured by now. A group attack? Well then, I will make you pay a painful price today. An extremely cold light burst out from Lin Xian's eyes. He was really angry, so he didn't hold back at all. He used the Kuan Peng movement technique and dodged more than a dozen attacks in an instant. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Seekong Jing with a murderous look in his eyes. You provoked me time and time again, and you even let the experts of your family hunt me down. You deserve to die. Lin Xian waved the great Spear of Destruction in his hand. Seekong Jing screamed like a madman, his face extremely pale. To be honest, he had already walked out of the heaven and earth phenomenon and regained his composure. At this moment, he saw more than a dozen people attacking him, including a saint. They knew that no matter how powerful Lin Wuti was, he was doomed. This made him calm down a lot, and he even sneered. He still didn't expect Lin Wuti to be so powerful. His movement technique was so strange that he actually dodged all the attacks and arrived in front of him. Damn it! How dare you attack Jing-er? A person roared and pounced forward. It was a powerhouse of the Seekong family. However, he was kicked away by Lin Xian, and blood mist filled the air. Run. That was Seekong Jing's only thought. He didn't dare to compete with Lin Xian now, because Lin Xian's aura was too strong. Therefore, he turned into a stream of light, tore through the void, and was about to escape. However, how could he be faster than Lin Xian? The great Spear of Destruction slid and directly pierced through the void. It blasted Seekong Jing out. Then, it pierced through Seekong Jing's heart. Ah! A miserable cry was heard and blood flowed, dyeing the great Spear of Destruction red. Damn it! Put it in, or I'll tear you into pieces. Kill your entire family. The people of the Seekong family roared crazily and pounced one after another. However, Lin Xian merely sneered and didn't take a head-on. He executed the Kuan Peng body movement technique and swam among these divine arts. Once again, he quickly flew to the other side. In an instant, he arrived in front of Long Shan. Not good. Long Shan was scared out of his wits. He turned around and ran. Damn it, the other party had actually found him and attacked him. Similarly, he did not dare to fight head-on. Damn it, you dare? The powerhouses of the Dragon Valley were also stunned. They did not expect the other party to be so powerful after piercing through Sikongjing. How dare he kill the prodigies of the Dragon Valley? If you dare to touch him, I'll tear you to pieces. His heart and soul were destroyed. However, this kind of threat was completely useless. Lin Xian attacked again, piercing through Long Shan's heart. Long Shan flew into the air, and a miserable cry rang out. Lin Xian dodged the dragon shadows that filled the sky and turned around again. Not good. Hurry up and protect our prodigies. The remaining experts from the 8th Desolation Palace and the Dark Moon Divine Hall also came to their senses. They retreated one after another, no longer surrounding Lin Xian. They had no choice. They could now see that Lin Xian was specifically targeting their top prodigies. Despicable, shameless. They roared crazily. If you have the ability, fight head-on. Lin Xian laughed loudly. I'm despicable. I'm shameless. You people still have the cheek to say that. You people are thousands of years old, and a dozen of you besieged a young junior like me. Now it's my turn to be despicable and shameless? Don't you like to suppress others with your strength? I'll let you juniors suffer this kind of fear. As he spoke, Lin Xian directly charged toward the people of the Dark Moon Divine Hall. These powerhouses moved out one after another. They protected Yu Lingzi as they retreated while assassinating Lin Xian. Every move was aimed at a vital point. All mountains looked small. Lin Xian struck out with the illusion of mountains, and his aura rose infinitely. This kind of heaven and earth phenomenon caused the people near him to stiffen and kneel in midair. Lin Xian punched out again, and the 10,000 dragons picture sent the remaining people flying. There was no one around Lin Xian anymore. Yu Lingzi's face was extremely pale. Stop, I didn't attack you. You can't. Before he could finish his words, he was also pierced through. His heart was split open, and his body was lifted into the Great Destruction Spear. Now, Lin Xian's body was stained with the blood of his enemies. The Great Destruction Spear in his hand flickered with a bright red light. There were 3 figures on it. They were 3 peerless prodigies. They let out miserable cries, but they didn't die. That was because Lin Xian didn't kill them. Instead, he still carried the 3 of them and charged toward the 4th prodigy. 8th Desolation Palace, Huang Batian. The people of the 8th Desolation Palace frantically blocked, but it was useless. Huang Ba was also pierced through by the spear. Finally, a prodigy of the Vermilion Bird Palace was also pierced through. Lin Xian pierced through 5 people with the Great Destruction Spear in his hand. He stood in the void like a stick of candied haws. Blood continued to drip, dyeing the surrounding void red. This scene was simply too shocking. Damn brat, let go of our people. You're dead meat. I definitely won't let you out alive. The surrounding sects and families all surrounded him with ferocious expressions. Lin Xian stood there like a god fiend. His gaze swept in all directions. You won't let me go? All right, let's see if I can let your people go first. His palm shook, and an extremely cold sword intent immediately spread out from the Great Destruction Spear. In an instant, the 5 of them were all shattered, and even their souls were instantly destroyed. No, damn it! The surrounding powerhouses had all gone crazy. Dead. Sikongjing, Huang Batian, Long Shan, and Yu Lingzi were all top prodigies. They were all people who could become saints and shine on the path of the great emperor in the future. But now they were all killed together. Their hearts were bleeding. Kill him. Tear this brat into 1,000 pieces. Otherwise, it would be difficult to relieve the hatred in their hearts. These people attacked crazily. Lin Xian directly used the 10,000 dragons picture and swept in all directions. At the same time, he used the hidden immortal pagoda and kept attacking. The battle was very tragic. In the end, even the saints could not help but attack. Lin Xian was directly sent flying, and the powerhouses of the Xikong family were also sent flying with him. They directly crashed into the wall of the Great Sage Tower in the distance. With a loud boom, the entire Great Sage Tower began to shake. "Kid, are you all right?" The Crimson Dragon and the others were worried. The scene was too chaotic. "I'm fine." Lin Xian stood up. Golden blood flowed from his body, but he did not care. However, at this moment he was surprised. Was the seal broken? He crashed into the wall and actually broke a seal, revealing a bottle of pills. Supreme Sage pills, and the quality should be very good. Lin Xian instantly grabbed it. "Damn it, let go." On the side, the eyes of the two powerhouses of the Xikong family instantly turned red. Their prodigy was dead, and now the pills left behind by their patriarch were also going to be taken away by the other party. Chapter 30, 389. Damn you! Leave the pills behind. The Xikong clan powerhouse roared like a madman. His words attracted the attention of the people around them. Suddenly, countless eyes looked over. What's going on? Did someone get the pills? They turned their heads and stared at Lin Wudi and the elder of the Xikong family. It was this brat who had broken the seal and acquired a bottle of medicinal pills from a great sage. The two Xikong clan elders pointed at Lin Xian and gritted their teeth. Supreme Saint pills. The people around them all stopped and turned their heads to look. In the next moment, they saw that the seal in one place had broken. The medicinal pills inside had disappeared. In an instant, these people looked at Lin Xian again. "Kid, hand over the pills." "Damn you, kid. You dared to kill our sex, genius powerhouse. Today I'll tear you into pieces." They hadn't suffered the pain of their genius being killed just now, but now their eyes turned red again. It's this kid again. Oh no. The Crimson Dragon and the others' hearts suddenly shrank. The previous incident hadn't ended yet, and now there was a new one. This time, it would be difficult to let it go. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up into a cold smile. "Oh, you want to snatch the pills, don't you?" He took out the pill bottle and threw it in front of them. It was in the direction of the Xikong clan. The Xikong clan elders thought that the other party was going to throw some hidden weapon, but when they saw that it was a pill bottle, they subconsciously caught it. Lin Xian said, "I've already given the Supreme Saint pills to the Xikong clan. It's considered returning to its rightful owner, so don't come looking for me again." As he spoke, he retreated backwards. The eyes of the surrounding people all shifted away from him and landed on the two Xikong clan powerhouses. The Xikong clan elders were stunned. The surrounding powerhouses of the other clans gathered together. They all gathered together. Did they get what they wanted? That brat was indeed more sensible than others. However, even if he handed over the pills, they wouldn't let him go. "Quick, take a look. What pills are these?" asked the Xikong clan elders who rushed over. The two Xikong clan elders opened the pills, and their expressions changed instantly. "Damn it, I've been tricked." It was just an ordinary pill. In an instant, their faces became incomparably dark as they stared straight ahead. "Brat, you actually dared to switch? How despicable. Hurry up and hand over the real Great Sage pills." Angry roars could be heard. Lin Xian sneered. The Xikong clan was so arrogant. They actually dared to say that he had swapped them? Was there no Great Sage aura on the pill bottle? Do you dare say that it wasn't taken out from the seal? You're spouting nonsense. You must have swapped it out just now. The members of the Xikong family shouted angrily. Lin Xian laughed and said, "Is that so?" I just got that bottle of elixir and was called out by you. Then, I became the target of countless experts. Why don't you ask the people around you? Have they noticed anything I did? Instead, it's your Sikong clan that's being protected by countless powerhouses now. It's probably very easy for you to do something in secret. Don't forget, this is your own great sage tower. You are the masters here. Now, you're wrongly accusing me, a junior. Are you shameless? At first, everyone was very suspicious of Lin Xian, but when they heard these words, they all stared at the Sikong clan again. Yes, in terms of combat, Lin Xian was definitely super strong. But in terms of other things, Lin Xian was no good. Of course, the Sikong clan was the most familiar with this place. This was because previously, whether it was breaking the array or crossing the Milky Way, it was very simple for the Sikong clan. They could do it easily with their own blood. Now that they had obtained a great sage pill, it was very easy for them to secretly exchange it for other elixirs. Therefore, everyone else froze. The Sikong clan looked unfriendly. The Sikong clan had better cooperate obediently. Since you have a way to open the seal, then you have a way to open the other seals as well. Hurry up and work together to share the treasures and live in peace. Otherwise, don't blame us for taking action. The experts of Vermilion Bird Palace, 8 Wind Palace, and Dragon Valley all said coldly. The surrounding saints were also glaring. Damn it, you've been deceived. The Sikong clan experts were so angry that they vomited blood. Their bodies were trembling with anger. Why didn't anyone believe them? He pointed at Lin Xian in the distance and said, "It's him. It's this kid who did it. It has nothing to do with us." "Oh, is that so? Then do you dare to let these experts search your storage ring?" Lin Xian said coldly. When he said that, the Sikong clan members' expressions changed again. The eyes of the surrounding experts lit up. "Brother Sikong, why don't you let us check it out? Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll really wrongly accuse you." "Yes, even if you have a clear conscience, let us check it out. Or rather, we can work together to seize the other seals." "Damn it, what are you doing? Let's go catch that kid together. He's our common enemy. Why are you listening to him? Don't you want revenge?" "Humph, of course we have to take revenge. Since he dared to kill our prodigies, he'll definitely die. However, he won't be able to escape any time soon in the Great Sage Tower, so I'll let him live for a while longer. The most important thing now is to seize the treasure and open the seal." Many of the experts' eyes shone with a cold light. Indeed, their prodigies were already dead. Even if they killed Lin Xian, their prodigies wouldn't be able to be revived. In that case, their thoughts would still be on them. They would obtain the treasure and increase their strength. When the time came, they would kill Lin Xian. That way, they would be able to take revenge, and they wouldn't be left behind. After all, it was every man for himself. I advise you to cooperate obediently. Yes, otherwise, it won't look good for anyone if we fall out. A few of the experts said. The Sikong clan members were so angry that they vomited blood. They pointed at Lin Xian and trembled. "Damn kid, how dare you trick me?" "Trick you?" Lin Xian sneered. What did they do before? They had teamed up with the experts of the various clans and sects to besiege him. Now he wanted these people to have a taste of being besieged. Isn't the Sikong clan powerful? Aren't you high and mighty? Didn't you always think that the Great Sage Tower is your territory? All right, I'll let you have a taste of what it feels like to be besieged by the Vermilion Bird Palace and other top sects. The Sikong clan members naturally knew that they couldn't become enemies with sects like the Dragon Valley. However, they wouldn't be willing to be searched even if they were beaten to death. Because just now, they had indeed used their bloodline to obtain many treasures on the first level. Moreover, before entering the Great Sage Tower, they had also obtained many benefits. How could they let these people search them now? At this moment, Lin Xian spoke again. "I'm afraid you still don't know? On the first level, even before the Great Sage Tower appeared, the Seekong clan had already conquered many secret underwater caves. The treasures inside were all taken by the Seekong clan. Chapter 30, 390. The expressions of the Seekong family members changed when they heard this. The people from the Dragon Valley frowned when they saw this scene. It seemed that they had indeed obtained something good. They cooperated obediently and opened the remaining seals. They were thoroughly enraged. They had been here for so long but had not obtained many treasures. Instead, it seemed that the Seekong family had reaped a bountiful harvest. How could they feel at ease now? How could this be? The Seekong family members were shocked. Could this kid have seen it before? But they had discovered that someone had peeked at it before. The Crimson Dragon and the others also flew to Lin Xian's side and asked softly, "Kid, what's going on?" Lin Xian replied telepathically. He had guessed that the Seekong family knew that there was a great sage tower here. Moreover, it was said that every time the great sage tower opened the void ocean, countless powerhouses would be sent in. They must be the most familiar with the situation in the void ocean. Therefore, their chances of obtaining treasures were also the highest. Su Chen's guess was right. The Seekong family had indeed obtained many treasures before, so they would not let the great sage tower explore them now. At this moment, a powerhouse from the Seekong family said, "This kid is trying to trick us. He's trying to sow discord between us. He wants to reap the benefits without doing anything." "That's right, I'm trying to sow discord. Besides, I lied before. The Seekong family did not obtain anything. Let's not make things difficult for the Seekong family." Lin Xian shrugged. The expressions of the surrounding powerhouses darkened when they heard this. How could this be? When they saw the changes in the faces of the space-time family members, they knew that something was wrong. Therefore, these people's expressions turned cold and their auras became stronger. No matter what happened before, they had to work together to break the remaining seals and split the treasures. Otherwise, don't blame them for being rude. Don't go too far. This is our great sage tower. Humph. So what if it's your great sage tower? If you're not convinced, then let's fight. The powerhouses of the Dragon Valley were the most hot-tempered and attacked directly. With a boom, a great battle broke out. The Seekong family members were also furious. Did they think they were afraid of them? They unleashed all kinds of heaven and earth vision to contend with the physical body of the Dragon clan. A shocking collision occurred, and a terrifying force swept in all directions. Since that's the case, I won't hold back. The 8-Wind Palace, the Dark Moon Palace, the Vermilion Bird Palace, and the surrounding sages had all made their moves. For a time, the Seekong clan received an extremely severe blow. Although these people's strength had been suppressed by 30%, and they had the bonus of their bloodline, there were simply too many experts around. For a time, they were beaten back repeatedly and vomited blood. Damn it, let's fight. The members of the Seekong clan roared madly, while Lin Xian and the others retreated into the distance. Looking at this scene, they sneered again and again. Hee, the Seekong clan would probably vomit blood from anger this time. Serves them right. Who told them to join hands to deal with us earlier? Now, let them have a taste of being beaten up by a crowd. Since the battle had already started, it probably wouldn't stop for a while. Therefore, Lin Xian didn't pay attention to it and let these people fight each other. He still had his own goals. He raised his head and looked at the statue of the great sage at the very top. His next step was to seize the statue of the great god. Thinking of this, Lin Xian retracted his aura. His figure flashed, and he directly rushed to the top. The Crimson Dragon and the others also quickly followed. Soon, they left the battle area below and came to the top. Here, the statue of the great sage seemed to suppress everything. There weren't any terrifying energy, fluctuations in the surroundings. When they arrived here, they all felt their hearts sink. They finally arrived near the statue, and looked at it carefully. This statue wasn't very big. It looked like it was carved from a real person. Although they didn't know who carved it, the aura made everyone know that all of this wasn't simple. The statue had the appearance of a man. He had a burly figure, a square face, and long hair that reached his shoulders. At a glance, he looked like an unparalleled god of war. Was this the great sage of the Sikong clan? Lin Xian and the others were shocked. Looking at the other party's disdainful appearance, he indeed cultivated the righteous qi of heaven and earth. Should I take this thing? Lin Xian stretched out his hand and grabbed in front of him. Soon, he enveloped the statue of the great sage with light. However, he didn't succeed. This was because the statue of the great sage was abnormally heavy. No matter how much power he exerted, he couldn't move it at all. Lin Xian furrowed his brows, while the people around him sucked in a breath of cold air. This statue of the great sage was really too mysterious. At that moment, they heard a scream from below. It was the people of the Sikong clan. They were covered in blood. Many of them were seriously injured. Some of them even turned into human form from the blood mist. Their expressions were extremely ugly. The battle just now had caused them to suffer heavy losses. Therefore, an elder said, "All right, let's stop fighting. I'm going to hand over some of the treasures." As he said that, he took off his storage ring and threw out all the things inside. In an instant, many treasures appeared. Pills, weapons, spirit herbs, and crystals appeared in the surroundings. Those people's eyes instantly turned red. The Crimson Dragon also exclaimed. His eyes were burning. Damn it, the people of the Sikong clan really have good things. Lin Xian sneered. Idiot. Yen Ryu also sighed. Yes, if they didn't hand over the treasures, there would be no evidence. Perhaps the fight would end in the end. However, these people were probably in a killing frenzy now. Indeed, the surrounding powerhouses instantly divided up the treasures. However, they didn't leave. Instead, their eyes were red. They stared at the people of the Sikong clan. An elder actually had so many things in a storage ring. You have so many storage rings. Hurry up and hand them all over. They were really too greedy. Damn it, don't push your luck. The people of the Sikong clan were also angry. They had originally thought that they would take a step back. If they took out a portion of the treasures and gave them away, these people would stop. However, they didn't expect these people to be so greedy. No matter how strong these people were, even if they were sages, they were still humans. Although their strength transcended the heavens and earth, humans were greedy creatures. Now that they had tasted the sweetness, how could they stop? As expected, the people of the Dragon Valley and Eight Wind Hall attacked even more fiercely. Every move was fatal. They wanted to kill the people of the Sikong clan and seize all the treasures of the Sikong clan. As expected, the battle that followed was even more terrifying. The people of the Sikong clan were injured even more severely. They were about to be wiped out. At this moment, the people of the Sikong clan roared crazily. Damn it, you've gone too far. Since you want to kill us, don't blame me for being merciless. At worst, we'll all die together. After saying that, he waved his hand and the blood of countless powerhouses flew out and merged into the surrounding Great Sage Tower. Many of them knelt down respectfully and shouted loudly, "Please show your spirit and destroy these strong enemies." They directly knelt down in the sky. Chapter 30, 391. After the walls of the Great Sage Tower absorbed the blood of the Sikong family experts, they suddenly lit up and formed terrifying blood-red patterns. Then they turned into lightning and charged over. Boom! The blood-red lightning danced in the air and cracked. Then the experts of the Vermilion Bird Palace and the Eight Wind Palace screamed. They were directly split open, and countless lightning cracks appeared on their bodies. The others, such as those from the Dragon Valley and the Dark Moon Temple, felt their scalps go numb. The blood-red lightning around them kept rushing over. as if it had turned into a blood-red sea of lightning. It was extremely terrifying. The grand ancestor had appeared. Our great sage had appeared. The Sikong family members were covered in blood and pale. Many of them had already fallen to the ground and were twitching. However, when they saw this scene, they were incomparably excited. Their hearts were fanatical. The great sage had finally appeared to save them. Damn it, how could this be? Could it be that the great sage was not completely dead? The expressions of the surrounding experts all changed. A few of the sages even shouted coldly and split open the terrifying lightning. Then they quickly charged over. At the same time, the statue of the great sage above moved. An extremely terrifying aura surged down. It was a righteous aura that formed a huge seal that descended from the sky. With a boom, 2 sages were directly sent flying. The 2 sages screamed as their bodies were split in half. They hurriedly dragged their corpses and fled into the distance, their eyes filled with fear. What was that? There was actually something here that could threaten them. The others also looked up. They saw that there was a statue of the great sage above, standing there and suppressing everything. Moreover, Lin Xian and the others were standing near the statue of the great sage. Damn it, how did that kid go there? Could it be that he was the one who launched the attack just now? No, that was a righteous aura. Was it from the Sikong family? Which statue did it come from? Could it be that the brat was there for the statue of the great sage? At the thought of this, many people's eyes instantly turned red. If they could obtain the great sage's statue and comprehend the secrets within, perhaps they could obtain the great sage's inheritance. In an instant, many people rushed over. However, at this moment, the great sage's statue also showed its power. The righteous qi kept gushing out in all directions, hitting the people who wanted to get close, causing them to scream miserably. The hearts of Lin Xian and the others pounded wildly. Just the aura released by the great sage statue was already so terrifying. If he really unleashed his full power, the power would be unimaginable. Even a statue was so powerful. He wondered how terrifying a true great sage would be. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. At the same time, they also felt a sense of relief, because at that moment they were floating beside the statue of the great sage. It could be said that they were standing side by side with the statue and not beneath the feet of the great sage. Therefore, he was not attacked by the righteous spirit. However, their hearts were still beating wildly. Who knew if the statue of the great sage would suddenly attack them? The crimson dragon frowned. Brat, hurry up and think of a way to get that thing away. Otherwise, more and more people would target them. At that time, it would be troublesome to make a move. Lin Xian also said, "Of course I know, but this thing is too strange. I can't even lift it." His face was a little pale. With the power of his divine body, what couldn't he lift? But the statue of the great sage didn't budge. Buzz! The sages below rushed over once more, trying to get close to the statue of the great sage. Because to them, the great sage's inheritance must be hidden in the statue of the great sage. Therefore, their eyes turned red. Blood surrounded their bodies, and some of them were even about to activate their bloodline. Seeing this, Lin Xian was extremely anxious. But at this moment, the great dragon's sword soul suddenly flew out and pierced towards the statue of the great sage. This scene was truly too sudden. It was so sudden that even Lin Xian was shocked. The crimson dragon, Yen Ruyu, and the others screamed. What was going on? Could it be that Lin Xian had made a move? They turned around and saw Lin Xian's shocked face. In a flash, the great dragon sword spirit collided with the statue of the great sage. Then, it released a shocking amount of energy. A terrifying sword wave swept out in all directions, and the righteous spirit of heaven and earth surged wildly. A crack appeared on the statue of the great sage, and it spread out in all directions. Lin Xian gasped. The statue of the great sage was broken? What was going on? Beside him, the crimson dragon screamed. "Kid, what the hell are you doing?" Lin Xian said, "I didn't do it. The great dragon sword spirit took the initiative to attack." What? Hearing this, Yenryu and the others were stunned. The crimson dragon was even more stunned. He had never encountered such a situation before. Indeed, Lin Xian was extremely confused. But soon his eyelids twitched, and golden runes appeared in his eyes. He stared at the statue of the great sage. "No, there's something in the statue. Look," Lin Xian exclaimed. The hearts of the dark red divine dragon and the other two thumped wildly. They unleashed their powers to resist that terrifying and overwhelming aura. In the next moment, they saw the statue of the great sage crack open, and a figure appeared inside. It was also a man with a dignified face. His black hair fell to his shoulders, and he had a terrifying aura. He looked exactly like the statue. What's going on? Why is there another person in the statue? Is it another statue? Or is it the corpse of the great sage? Thinking of this, their hearts beat wildly. In the next moment, their expressions changed, because they realized that the eyes of the figure in the statue of the great god were shining. One was as black as ink, and the other was as red as blood. What kind of eyes were those? Moreover, the color of the eyes was really strange. Among them, the eyes of the crimson and red eyes moved. Everyone's hair stood on end, and they retreated frantically. The eyes of the statue that seemed to be the corpse of the great sage actually moved. Could it be that the other party was not dead? The other party was alive. Thinking of this, their scalps were about to split open. A living great sage. Dear heavens! Something big was about to happen. Retreat quickly. Lin Xian roared and quickly retreated. However, it was already too late. That blood-red eyeball turned, and immediately a frightening aura was emitted from its body. It swept in all directions. The entire great sage tower shook violently. This scene stunned the powerhouses of the Fane of Darkness and the Dragon Valley. Only the people of the Sikong family were stunned at first, but then they were overjoyed. The patriarch had performed a miracle. The patriarch's remnant soul was still here. Welcome the patriarch. They knelt on the ground and kept worshipping. The bloodline power in their bodies surged rapidly. Chapter 30, 392. Damn it, what was going on? How could this be? Many experts were dumbfounded. Many of them looked up, their bodies trembling. The great sage statue had been revived. Many people gasped when they heard this. Some of them shook their heads. Impossible! How could a statue be revived? However, they saw that some of the saints were retreating in fear. Indeed, a few sages had wanted to snatch the great sage statue because they thought that it contained the great sage's legacy. But now they were being pushed out by an extremely terrifying force. They even saw the eyes of the great god statue twitch. This made their hair stand on end. Buzz! The great sage tower shook even more violently. The red light in the eyes of the great sage statue suddenly shone brightly, covering the 9 heavens and 10 lands. In the next moment, everyone inside was enveloped. Oh no, they resisted like crazy. Boom! They were hit into the void and disappeared. Yenryu and the others also exclaimed and disappeared. Lin Xian's great dragon, Sword Soul, roared and cut off the red light. It completely enveloped Lin Xian. In the next moment, Lin Xian frowned. His face was incomparably gloomy because he realized that other than him, everyone in the great sage tower had disappeared. Were they all killed? But very quickly he shook his head. That was impossible. Yenryu's trump card was in no way inferior to his great dragon Sword Soul. Therefore, they should not have been killed. If they suddenly disappeared, it was very likely that they were teleported away. Thinking of this, his face was gloomy. It was not only the 3rd level, the 2nd level, and even the people on the first level were all enveloped by the red light and disappeared. Outside, the people who had yet to enter also saw the great sage tower shake violently. What was going on? What happened inside? They were extremely shocked. Could it be that there was a shocking battle inside? That the great sage tower was shaking? Before they had time to think, the great sage tower shook violently, causing the 9 heavens and 10 lands to collapse. In the next moment, all the foreign experts in the Void Sea were teleported out. Outside the Void Sea, countless experts were waiting there. They were all people from the various large clans who were prepared to welcome them. At this moment, the faces of these people from the sects were relaxed. Many people sat on spirit boats or demonic beasts, sipping tea and discussing the Tao. I wonder how these little fellows are doing inside. A white-haired old man said with flickering eyes. His hair was very long, hanging down to his feet. It was incomparably white and carried a strange aura. This was a grand elder of the Sikong family. There was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Hopefully, they'd be able to find the whereabouts of the great sages. Don't worry, Elder, we're well prepared this time. Many experts are going in. And this time, even Sikong Jing, who had a pure bloodline, had gone in. There would definitely be no problem. The other members of the Sikong clan also said with a smile. Hearing this, the Grand Elder nodded, picked up the spirit tea beside him, and slowly tasted it. On the other side, the powerful beings of the Dragon Valley were also chatting and laughing. They were very confident in their lineup and the strength of their powerhouses. They didn't think that anything unexpected would happen. Boom! 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 Suddenly, a violent trembling sound was heard. The void ocean in front of them suddenly surged with waves, crashing in all directions. A terrifying force spread across the universe. What's going on? What's happening? The surrounding powerful beings of the large sects all stopped talking and stood up one by one. The people of the Sikong family frowned. Could the changes in the void ocean have something to do with the great sages they were looking for? Before they could figure it out, countless cracks appeared in the void ocean. Then, figures flew out from the cracks. They're out? After seeing those figures, many people were stunned. They realized that they were all their people. These people had already come out. But it shouldn't be. They came out earlier than they expected. Sure enough, these people were adventurers from the void ocean. After flying out, they felt dizzy and had sunken eyes. Then they regained their strength. They looked around vigilantly. However, when they saw the elders of their respective families, they were all stunned. Damn it, what's going on? Why did I come out? They were all dumbfounded. The elders and powerful beings were even more confused. They hurriedly asked, "What happened? Why did you come out early?" The powerful beings of the Dragon Valley, 8 Wind Palace, and Dark Red Palace all came forward to look for their people. Many people returned to their own camps. Among them, some of them screamed. What's going on? Where's Yu Lingzi? The people of the Dark Moon Palace were the first to scream. This was because they realized that their most outstanding prodigy, Yu Lingzi, who had entered this time, had disappeared. When the others heard this, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Yu Lingzi was a renowned, peerless genius. Could it be that something had happened to him? Did a sage do it? The others sucked in a breath of cold air. At this moment, another scream was heard. Damn it, where's Long Shan? The others were stunned again. Long Shan was one of the peerless geniuses of the Dragon Valley. He was not inferior to Yu Lingzi. Moreover, his body was so strong that it could be said that no one could compare to him. Now he had disappeared too? Many people gloated. They didn't expect that 2 top geniuses would die in the void ocean. However, soon they were stunned again. It wasn't just 2 geniuses. In the end, they were all trembling. After that, the people from the Ba Huang Palace and the Sikong clan started to scream. They were the top geniuses of the Ba Huang Palace. Sikong Jing, Huang Batian, and the others had also disappeared. Impossible, right? The surrounding elders all sucked in a breath of cold air. It was normal for one or two peerless geniuses to die. After all, accidents happened all the time. But now, all the geniuses of the major families and sects had disappeared. This was unusual. Who killed them? Damn it, who killed them? The people of the major sects stared at the sages around them. In their opinion, only a sage could kill so many geniuses at the same time. However, the powerful beings of their respective sects knelt on the ground and cried hysterically. The elders were not sages. It was Lin Wudi who killed you, Lingzi. What? Lin Wudi? On the other side, the people of the Dragon Valley were gnashing their teeth in anger. It was Lin Wudi who killed Longshan. The people around them were stunned. It was Lin Wudi again. Lin Wudi was too strong, wasn't he? He killed two top geniuses in one go. Huang Batian was also killed by Lin Wudi. The powerful beings of the Eight-Wind Palace looked extremely cold. The others were even more dumbfounded. The powerful beings of the Vermilion Bird Palace gritted their teeth and said, "Damn it, it was Lin Wudi who killed several of our geniuses." Everyone was numb. It was all Lin Wudi's doing. Wait, they looked at the Sikong family. Where was Sikong Jing? Could it be Lin Wudi's doing as well? Chapter 30, 393. They didn't think it was possible. They knew that the Sikong clan was not ordinary and had an inexplicable connection with the Void Ocean. In the past, the experts of the Void family who had entered had their bloodline strengthened, and their strength was much stronger than those outside. Therefore, they all looked at the Sikong clan. The Grand Elder of the Sikong clan stood up with a solemn expression. The surrounding powerhouses were also very anxious. However, the people that came out were all covered in blood. Their complexions were incomparably pale. They gritted their teeth and said, "Lin Wudi killed Jing." What? Is it really Lin Wudi again? The people around the Void Ocean were in an uproar. Everyone was going crazy. Lin Wudi was very powerful. No one could compare to him among the half-saints. It was even rumored that Yen Nantian, the successor of the great emperor, was no match for him. It could be said that his name resounded throughout the ancient path of the stars. But no matter how powerful he was still a young half-saint. This time, so many top geniuses from the great sects had brought many powerhouses. There were saints among them. Could it be that they couldn't stop Lin Wudi? What happened? Did Lin Wudi fight those people alone? They didn't know. The Grand Elder of the Sikong clan roared at the sky. His white hair danced wildly in the wind, and his eyes were terrifying. The murderous aura on his body was too terrifying. At this moment, he was like a god of death floating in the void, causing the people around him to tremble. Those from the Sikong clan even knelt on the ground. The Grand Elder floated in the void. His piercing voice resounded in all directions. "Where is Lin Wudi? Get over here." His voice was like thousands of sword chi, causing everyone's scalps to tingle. Everyone's hearts trembled, and they unconsciously looked in one direction. That direction was where the people of the Langistar were. They knew that Lin Wudi had come with the people of the Langistar. At this moment, he should have returned to that place. Countless gazes looked in that direction. In the next moment, they were stunned. They saw the powerhouses from the Langistar standing there. However, they didn't see Lin Wudi. They only saw the dragon with Lin Wudi, Yenryu, and the North Demon. However, Lin Wudi had disappeared. Where is Lin Wudi? Could it be that he had perished together with those geniuses? This was what everyone was thinking. They felt that if this was the case, it was still acceptable. We don't know. When we were teleported out, that kid wasn't dead yet. Maybe he's still in the Great Sage Tower. The powerhouse from the Sikong clan said in a deep voice. What? When the others heard this, they were all stunned and looked at the Sikong clan one after another. The Grand Elder was also stunned. He floated down excitedly, and the killing intent on his body was still very strong. The Great Sage Pagoda? Could it be that the Great Sage Pagoda belonged to the Sikong clan? That's right. After going through untold hardships, we finally found our Great Sage Tower. We went in, and it was full of treasures. The people from the Sikong clan quickly recounted what had happened. When they heard that there really was a great sage tower inside, they were all stunned. This was because it was only a rumor that the great saint of the Sikong clan had entered the Void Sea. That was something from tens of thousands of years ago. Even if someone had seen it, after so many years, those who had seen it with their own eyes had long since died and turned into dust. Now, what these people heard were only legends. They didn't think that the Sikong clan had a supreme saint. But now, the Great Sage Pagoda had appeared. This meant that the Sikong clan really had a supreme saint. Moreover, they had really entered the Void Sea. What's going on? What's with the injuries on your bodies? Could it be that you encountered a sea demon? Or was Lin Wudi the one who injured you? The Grand Elder looked at the people from the Sikong clan and frowned. The others were also very puzzled. That was right. They had only just noticed that among the people who came out, the Sikong clan members were the ones with the heaviest injuries. But how was that possible? Hadn't they entered the Great Sage Pagoda? Didn't their own Great Sage Pagoda have protective measures? It wasn't Lin Wudi, it was them. One of the powerhouses stood up, his expression incomparably gloomy. He pointed at the Vermilion Bird Palace, 8 Desolate Hall, Dragon Valley, and Dark Moon Temple. These people wanted our treasures, so they joined forces to attack us. We narrowly escaped death and were almost killed. If we hadn't used the power of our bloodlines to activate the Great Sage Pagoda, we would have all died by now. What? The surrounding people were stunned. The other powerhouses' mouths also twitched. There was actually such a thing. It was really too shocking. The 8 Desolate Hall and the other sects who had attacked frowned. Among them, the powerhouses who had originally received them also felt their eyelids twitch wildly. What was going on? Why did they suddenly join forces to attack the Sikong clan? And in the Great Sage Pagoda? What was going on? Those people looked embarrassed. Among them, the powerhouse from the Vermilion Bird Palace sneered. Ha ha! I think this is a misunderstanding. We were all deceived by Lin Wudi before. Lin Wudi instigated us to fight. That's why we fought. What? Lin Wudi again? The others were stunned. This young man was too terrifying. First, he had killed so many geniuses from the large sections. Then he had instigated internal strife between the large sections. What about the other side? Had the other side taken advantage of the situation? Humph. Hearing that, the people from the Sikong clan snorted coldly. Damn it. Even if Lin Wudi had instigated it in the end, these people had attacked because they were greedy. The Grand Elder looked at the large sects of the Vermilion Bird Palace and temporarily suppressed the killing intent in his heart. After all, it wasn't good to fall out with them now. There were too many sects that had attacked, and none of them were weaker than the Sikong clan. It was very unwise to make enemies with all of them at the same time. Therefore, he snorted coldly in his heart. This matter would be settled later. The most important thing now was the Great Sage Pagoda. How was it? Seeing that the people from the Sikong clan didn't immediately get angry, the surrounding people were also speechless. It seemed that the older the ginger, the spicier it was. They weren't willing to suffer a loss when the odds were against them. The people from the Vermilion Bird Palace heaved a sigh of relief. Although they had attacked first, when the time came, they could just return to their sect and cultivate in seclusion for a few hundred years. The Sikong clan wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Everyone pricked up their ears because they also wanted to know what had happened to the Great Sage Pagoda. According to these people, there were treasures in the Great Sage Pagoda. Any one of them could tempt a saint. However, the news that followed made them stunned, because the people from the Sikong clan directly said that they didn't know. They had used the power of their bloodlines to activate the Great Sage Pagoda. The Great Sage statue seemed to have awakened, but it shot out a red light and teleported everyone out. What? How could this be? Chapter 3394. Everyone was dumbfounded. The Grand Elder of the Seekong family had an ugly expression on his face. Was it all for naught? Some of the saints sighed inwardly. It was such a pity. If they could get the great sage statue, they might be able to get the great god's inheritance. But now that they were out, it would be difficult for them to enter the void ocean again. They would probably have to wait until the next opening. Sounds of regret could be heard one after another. Many people shook their heads. The Seekong family members were also in despair. But at that moment a voice was heard. That might not be the case. There was still one person who hadn't come out. When these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. They all began to look around. Who exactly was the one who spoke? Who was it? Why was he sneaking around? The powerhouses of the Seekong family roared in anger. At that moment a figure appeared. The phantoms of the 4 divine beasts and the 9 emperor marks made him look like a celestial emperor. It was Yen Nantian. Everyone screamed. The people of the Vermilion Bird Palace also heaved a sigh of relief. When they didn't find Yen Nantian, they thought that he had also died. Now that he had appeared, they were shocked. They knew that Yen Nantian must have been secretly hiding his aura. What did young Master Yen mean? The Grand Elder of the Seekong family asked in a low voice. Yen Nantian smiled. I also entered the Great Sage Tower for a long time, so I came out later. Before I came out, there was one more person inside, and it seemed that he wasn't affected. He's probably still inside. What? Someone was still in the Great Sage Tower? Who was it? Was it someone from the Seekong family? Many people were nervous. The Grand Elder was also excited, but Yen Nantian shook his head. It was Lin Wudi. He was still inside. Lin Wudi, it was him again. Everyone was stunned. They thought that Lin Wudi had died together with Yulingzi and the others since he hadn't appeared. But now it seemed that wasn't the case. Lin Wudi was still inside. Their eyes instantly turned red. The Great Sage Tower was a treasure vault left behind by a great sage. Lin Wudi was the only one inside. Didn't that mean that he would get all the treasures of the great sage? These people were so angry that smoke was coming out of their heads. In an instant, many experts turned to look at the Langistar. Saint Mu Bai of the Langistar had already heard about the incident from the Crimson Dragon. To be honest, he was a little worried. At the same time, he was secretly happy and worried. He was worried about Lin Xian's safety. After all, those red eyes and the moving corpse of a great sage were enough to send chills down one's spine. However, there was also a hint of joy because Lin Xian had finally found the statue of the great god. At this moment, when he heard that Lin Xian had done so many things, the corner of his mouth twitched. This guy was really not easy to deal with. However, since their Langistar had already placed their bets on Lin Xian, they would naturally stand on Lin Xian's side. Therefore, at this moment, when he saw the gazes of so many experts, Saint Mu Bai snorted coldly and emitted a terrifying saint aura. On the spirit ship behind him, several figures appeared. Each of them had a very powerful aura. These days, many experts had already lined up on the Langistar because once Lin Xian took out the statue of the great sage, it would be very eye-catching. That would be very eye-catching, so he naturally had to take protective measures. The people of the Seekong family also looked at the Langistar. However, now that Lin Xian had not come out, they could not directly attack the Langistar. Humph! They retracted their gazes and looked at Yen Nantian. Was he serious? Of course. And I saw with my own eyes that Lin Wudi used his sword to break the statue of the great sage. I wonder what he was doing. Perhaps it was because he broke the statue of the great sage that everyone was teleported out from behind. What? The expressions of the surrounding people changed again. The statue of the great sage was broken by him. What a wastrel! They were so angry that their bodies trembled. The Grand Elder of the Seekong family was so angry that he vomited blood. Saint Mu Bai's eyes flickered. He had already heard about this from the Crimson Dragon. Of course, He knew that there was a corpse in the statue. It was very likely the corpse of the great sage. If he could obtain the corpse of the great sage, the demonic aura-suppressing effect would be even more terrifying than the statue of the great sage. Right? I guess he broke the statue because he thought that there was the great sage's inheritance inside. Yan Nantian said indifferently. What? Everyone went crazy. The great sage's inheritance. That was more precious than any other treasure. Other than Yan Nantian, who did not need it. Everyone else needed it. This Lin Wudi was too despicable. Damn it, they couldn't leave. They had to wait for that kid to come out. They had to catch him. They couldn't let him take the treasure for himself. The people of the Vermilion Bird Palace were the first to speak. Then the people of the Dragon Valley and the Eight-Wind Palace also echoed. The people of the Sikong family shouted coldly. They naturally would not leave because that was their inheritance. Everything in the Great Sage Tower must belong to them. Lin Xian, or whatever he was, he had to capture him and tear him to shreds. Everyone was aggressive as they searched in all directions. Some people even set up arrays, enveloping the space within a radius of tens of millions of miles. The void sea ahead was incomparably deep, but they could not enter. They could only wait for the other party to come out. The atmosphere was heavy, but the murderous intent in everyone's eyes did not diminish at all. Void Sea, Great Sage Tower. Everyone had been teleported away, leaving only Lin Xian. At this moment, Lin Xian's body was wrapped in the great dragon sword soul, releasing a terrifying aura that cut off the red light. That was why he was not teleported out. He did not get too close. At this moment, he had already left the vicinity of the great sage's statue. Instead, he was in the great sage tower, looking in all directions. There were many seals around him, sealing many treasures. However, he had tried to break these seals, but it was very difficult. Previously, he had broken them perhaps because of the Sikong family's bloodline. However, at this moment, there was no Sikong family blood on the ground. This was because the Sikong family elites had used their blood to activate the Great Sage Tower. Therefore, he was now thinking that he could not find the blood even if he wanted to. Left with no choice, he could only look around. Suddenly, his expression froze as he stared in a certain direction. That direction was the direction of the Great Sage's statue. The Great Sage's statue had been shattered, and many pieces had fallen to the ground. Inside the statue, besides the Great Sage's corpse, there was also a stone that the other party was holding in his hand. That thing was only the size of an apple. It was very chaotic and incomparably dark, but there was no light. It looked like an ordinary stone. However, when Lin Xian saw it, his entire body trembled. It was actually an elemental magnetic stone. The other party was actually holding an elemental magnetic stone. What was going on? He was really stunned. The elemental magnetic stone was the last thing he needed. Chapter 30, 395. Previously, the Langistar had given him news that the Void Ocean did not have the whereabouts of the magnetite. Perhaps he would have to go out and look for it again. But now he had actually found the whereabouts of the magnetite. It seemed that the Great Sage Tower was a self-contained space that was not inferior to the Void Ocean. That was why the Langistar had not divined it. But now he could not care so much. The magnetite was right in front of him, and he still had the 5 great Tao stones in his hand. He had an idea. He could comprehend the Tao here. Although this was also a small space, the laws of heaven and earth followed the great Tao of heaven and earth outside. Therefore, there was no difference between comprehending the Tao here and outside. Moreover, he was the only one in the Great Sage Tower. He would be safer here. At least he would not be attacked by others. After thinking about it, he was stunned. Would he really not be attacked? This great sage's corpse was very strange. The eyeballs could move. Did this mean that the other party was alive or dead? He did not know. However, he should seize the magnetite first. Su Qin took a deep breath and stomped his foot. He turned into a sword light and rushed over. In an instant, he was near the great sage's statue. He reached out his hand, wanting to seize the magnetite in the statue. Buzz! The golden hand grabbed the magnetic stone. Lin Xian's face was filled with joy, but at that moment he was shocked. Not good. The red eyes suddenly turned and stared at him. The next moment he felt a pain in his soul. A terrifying red light surged into his mind. Not good. It was a possession. Lin Xian was shocked and froze on the spot. He frantically mobilized his soul and the great dragon, Sword Soul, to counterattack. He was not dead. The great sage was not dead. Did his soul still exist? Moreover, did the other party want to seize his body? Lin Xian was too shocked. The great dragon, Sword Soul, roared. Lin Xian did not hold back at this moment. The biting cold sword light slashed through the air and directly repelled the red light. The next moment, Lin Xian's body shook and he retreated. He looked bewildered. Cold sweat flowed down his forehead. Almost. At that moment just now, if he had been a step later, his body would have probably been possessed. Who are you? Was it a human or a ghost? Lin Xian shouted coldly. However, what surprised him was that the red light actually disappeared. The statue of the great sage didn't move at all, as if it had died completely. Could that scene just now be a dream? Unbeknownst to Lin Xian, he grabbed the magnetic stone with his huge golden hand and quickly descended to the ground. After thinking about it, Lin Xian felt that this great god statue was too evil, so he left the great sage tower and went outside. I'll go through the tribulation near the great sage tower. After all, the sea demons in the water won't dare to come close during the tribulation. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath. With a wave of his hand, 5 Tao stones appeared and floated beside him. In his hand, he held the Yuan magnet. Finally, he could begin. Now, as a half-saint, he could kill a saint in the first heaven. Who knew how powerful he would be when he broke through and became a saint? Thinking of this, he felt a burst of excitement, but he still suppressed it in his heart. First, he used 3 days to adjust his body's condition to its peak. Then he began to prepare for the breakthrough. What he was going to break through wasn't a simple one, but the fusion of the 5 elemental laws. Therefore, it was much more difficult than a normal saint's breakthrough. Lin Xian began to use the 5 elemental law fragments, floating in the middle. Then, with the Yuan magnet as the foundation, he began to fuse them. Gradually, a trace of thunder appeared above his head. Terrifying lightning surged and was about to fall. However, it didn't fall. Instead, the area of the dark clouds grew larger and larger, covering the entire sky. Roar! This scene caused the sea demons in the void sea to roar uneasily. Many of them crawled on the ground, but even more fled. The surrounding sea became a no-man's land. There was only one person. Of course, there was also the Great Sage Tower. The Great Sage Tower stood there, without moving. Even in the face of such a terrifying tribulation, it wasn't affected in the slightest. However, the eyes of the great god statue in the Great Sage Tower once again emitted a red glow. His originally stiff face actually revealed a strange smile. Outside, the 5 elemental law fragments began to fuse under the combined effect of the Yuan magnet. At this moment, his body trembled. This was because a red light had rushed out of the Great Sage Tower and pierced the space between his eyebrows. In an instant, Lin Xian felt the world spin. It's the other side again. Indeed, there was an undying existence here. Lin Xian roared. The great dragon Sword Soul rushed into his mind, releasing an unparalleled light that suppressed everything. At the same time, the lightning tribulation above Lin Xian's head also descended. With a loud boom, the first lightning tribulation descended. It was like a horn that signaled the start of a war. Countless bolts of lightning fell one after another. This lightning was too terrifying. Although it was just a black cloud, the lightning that came out was actually 5-colored divine lightning. With one strike, it pierced through Lin Xian's body. Golden blood flowed out and dyed the surrounding sea red. In the next instant, Lin Xian's body was engulfed by lightning. At this moment, the red light in his mind was also attacked by the great dragon Sword Soul and kept retreating. Ah! Suddenly it screamed. 5-colored divine lightning. You've broken through the sage tribulation. And it's the sage tribulation of the 5 elements. It finally let out a sharp cry. I don't know what you are. I don't know if you're the remnant soul of a great sage. But since you want to steal my soul, then you can die now. Lin Xian roared and no longer paid any attention to the red light. He knew that such things were most afraid of lightning tribulations. Now he had to resist the lightning tribulation with all his might. As expected, the red light didn't attack. Instead, it fled like crazy. It wanted to escape. Lin Xian took a step forward and chased after it. The lightning tribulation continued to fall, hitting the red light until it screamed like crazy. However, the red light was too strange. It broke away from the 5-colored divine lightning and drilled into the great sage tower. Lin Xian didn't continue to pursue it. Instead, he resisted it. The lightning tribulation was too terrifying. Even with his strength, he almost couldn't resist it. In an instant, his body was smashed into pieces. However, with a roar, his body reassembled. Otherwise, Lin Xian would have pulled the great dragon Sword Soul out and let him undergo the tribulation together. The great dragon Sword Soul roared and soared into the sky amidst the 5-colored divine lightning. Just like that, the two of them silently endured the lightning tribulation. The lightning tribulation lasted for too long. A month had passed, but the lightning tribulation didn't weaken at all. Chapter 3396. 2 months. 3 months. Outside, the experts around the void ocean were also waiting patiently. However, they were getting impatient. 3 months had passed, and he still hadn't come out? What was going on? The void ocean had already closed. Could he still come out? He wouldn't be trapped inside, would he? Some people were puzzled. The others were worried as well. Even the Crimson Dragon and the others were worried. Was Lin Xian really okay? They knew that the eye of the great sage tower could move. There might be some terrifying existence inside. If such an existence attacked, would Lin Xian be able to withstand it? All of this was unknown. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. The people outside were getting impatient. However, they didn't leave because the great sage tower and the great sage's inheritance were too tempting. Even if they had to wait for 10 years, they would still wait. In the void ocean, the red lightning tribulation continued and became more violent. However, the figure inside was getting stronger. It was Lin Xian. After half a year of accumulation, Lin Xian's physique was much stronger than before. He emitted an extremely powerful aura. The 5 elemental law fragments around him were also quickly condensing. They were even more terrifying than before. Lin Xian bathed in the lightning tribulation. He raised his head and looked at the great sage tower in front of him. After half a year, he had already adapted to the 5 elemental lightning tribulation. Next, he would start his counterattack. After all, he knew that there was a remnant soul in the great sage statue. However, he didn't know if it was the great sage's remnant soul. However, if he wanted to get the great sage statue and bring it out, he had to fight this remnant soul. He might as well take advantage of the fact that the 5-colored lightning tribulation was still there and kill it. As soon as he thought of this, Lin Xian stomped his foot and charged towards the grand sage tower. As he moved, the 5-colored lightning tribulation chased after him and charged towards the tower. In an instant, it hit the great sage tower. The great sage tower trembled violently. However, it wasn't damaged. After all, it was a great sage's sacred artifact. Its power was definitely beyond imagination. After Lin Xian entered the great sage tower, He directly charged towards the third level. He brought along 5 colored lightning along the way, shattering the void within the great sage tower. Soon he arrived at the third level. Then, without slowing down, he rushed to the top. Originally, the great sage tower had been extremely quiet. However, as Lin Xian entered, the statue of the great sage suddenly erupted with a scarlet light. Then a sharp roar was heard. "You're courting death." That voice was filled with resentment and fear. He had never expected that the other party would actually come and kill him. Moreover, he had brought along the lightning tribulation. In the blink of an eye, he ran off. However, Lin Xian simply laughed heartily as he approached the statue of the great sage. It enveloped the statue of the great sage. Did he escape? Even better, I wanted the statue of the great god in the first place. Look at you, a wandering ghost, without the corpse of the great sage. What right do you have to be arrogant in front of me? Rely on the corpse of a great sage? Humph, what a reckless brat. Do you think you can do anything to me just because you have the lightning tribulation? How naive! I'm not an existence that you can imagine. With that, the red light screamed, and the 9 heavens and 10 lands shook. In the sea of lightning, Lin Xian's body swayed and he almost fell. His face was incomparably pale. He had no choice. The soul attack was too strong. It was so strong that it exceeded his expectations. Damn it, what kind of existence is this? Could it really be the remnant soul of the great sage? At the thought of this, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Even a remnant soul of the great sage was so terrifying. Fortunately, he was undergoing the tribulation now, so he could withstand it. From the looks of it, the lightning tribulation wouldn't disappear for a while. It would probably take at least half a year. Lin Xian calmed down. With the lightning tribulation, he wasn't afraid of the other party. Therefore, he rushed over. In the following days, Lin Xian chased after the red light figure nonstop. The red light figure roared repeatedly. Finally, it felt that it couldn't escape, so it entered the great sage's corpse again. It exploded with an incomparable light and fought Lin Xian. Lin Xian didn't fight it head-on. Instead, he used the power of the lightning tribulation to fight it. Not only that, the great dragon sword soul also made a move. The great dragon sword soul had been bathing in the lightning tribulation. At this moment, its power was stronger than before. Countless sword qi slashed out, and the red light kept retreating. The red light screamed crazily. It didn't expect the other party to have the great dragon sword. Just like that, another half a year passed. Gradually, the red light disappeared. They couldn't find anything. The great sage's statue was still standing there. Although it was hit by the lightning tribulation, it wasn't damaged at all. It should be destroyed. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. That kind of evil thing couldn't survive after being hit by the lightning tribulation for half a year, no matter how strong it was. After all, it wasn't a real great sage. It was a resentful spirit formed many years after the great sage died. Just like that, Lin Xian relaxed and began the final tribulation. However, when he combined the 5 elements, he was attacked by the red light again. Lin Xian was injured. His body collapsed and turned into a bloody mist. Damn it! Lin Xian was furious. The other party was still alive. He directly sent the great dragon sword soul into the great sage's statue and attacked it continuously. Terrifying sword qi filled every inch of space. The red light finally couldn't take it anymore. He directly used the righteous qi of heaven and earth to eject the great dragon sword soul. Lin Xian was sent flying as well. This guy was too evil. He didn't continue to attack because he was almost at the final juncture. Therefore, he directly rushed out of the great sage tower and began the final tribulation. The 5 elements combined. The fragments of the 5 great laws of nature gathered together to form a 5-colored divine chain that revolved around his body, making him appear extraordinarily mighty. The final lightning tribulation was even more terrifying. It formed a human figure. The human figure of the lightning tribulation was fighting Lin Xian. This battle lasted for 3 months. Lin Xian destroyed the human figure. The precept fragments in his body had completely turned into true precepts. The precepts of the 5 elements turned into 5-colored light. At this moment, the precepts of the 5 elements were finally condensed successfully. Lin Xian, on the other hand, became a true saint. With a roar, the 9 heavens and 10 lands shook. When Lin Xian's precepts of the 5 elements were released, the unparalleled power was really too strong. An ordinary first heaven sage was nothing in front of him. Lin Xian was confident that he could fight against a second heaven sage. If this spread, it would be too unbelievable. After all, when one reached the sage realm, every level of heaven would bring about a huge change in one's strength. Previously, all the people Lin Xian met were only first heaven sages, but they were already so terrifying. One could imagine how terrifying a second heaven sage's birthday would be. But now, Lin Xian wasn't afraid even when facing a second heaven sage. Thinking of this, Lin Xian looked at the great dragon sword soul beside him. Chapter 30, 397. At this moment, the dragon sword soul was getting stronger and stronger. There were clear scales on it, and those scales were the spirit of laws. It seemed that the dragon sword soul had also broken through. Buzz! Lin Xian merged with the dragon sword soul, and his power rose again. At this moment, even the saint-level sea monsters roared anxiously. The great sage tower shook nonstop. Lin Xian rushed into the great sage tower, and the red light let out a sharp cry again. You broke through. He immediately activated the righteous chi of heaven and earth and attacked quickly. Lin Xian fought fiercely. The dragon sword soul turned into the 1,000 dragons picture and sealed the entire great sage statue. The great sage statue fought back crazily, but in the end, Lin Xian had already become a sage. The 5 elements' laws were extremely powerful. Coupled with the dragon sword soul, the red light kept shaking and would disappear at any time. Stop, you can't kill me. Finally, an old voice sounded. Hearing this voice, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He was unmoved, and he continued to seal and attack. Finally, the red light couldn't take it anymore. He seemed to have used the entire great sage statue. The great sage statue moved and released a shocking attack. It collided with the red light and screamed, Stop, we can talk. Talk? Talk about what? Lin Xian sneered. Just now, when you tried to possess me over and over again. Did you ever think of having a talk with me? I was wrong. I didn't expect you to be the successor of the dragon sword soul and have comprehended the 5 elements laws. I underestimated your power. I admit that I can't do anything to you now. However, if you push me too far, even if I can't kill you, I can make you stay here forever. Back then, I could even kill the Situ Supreme Sage, let alone you, who had just become a first heaven sage. You're just a kid. Although my power has long been lost, I still have many tricks up my sleeve. Don't destroy me. The meaning of the threat was obvious. Lin Xian was originally disdainful, but when he heard one sentence, he stopped. What did that mean? You're not the remnant soul of the Sikong great sage? He was simply too shocked. At first, he thought that it was a remnant soul left behind by a great saint of the Sikong clan. But now, from his tone, it seemed like he was the one who killed great sage Sikong. The other party had actually killed a great sage. Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of person is this? At the very least, he has to be a great sage of the same realm. Humph, brat, I am not the Sikong Grand Sage, and I am not a member of the human race. I am Black Mountain, known as the Great Sage of Black Mountain. You're right. I was the one who killed great sage Sikong. It was actually real. Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. There was actually such an ancient mystery. Damn, old man Sikong. What kind of bullshit righteous spirit is he cultivating? Does he think he can restrain me? So what? Even though this old man is a demon, the vastness of heaven and earth still cannot restrain me. In the end, I killed him. Of course. Even though I died, I still left behind a remnant soul. I borrowed his corpse and used the righteous spirit to recover. I actually did not die for tens of thousands of years. In the end, I still won this battle. Lin Xian fell silent. It seemed like another pair of old enemies. Previously, the Nine-Sun Sword Sage was killed by the great demon. However, in the end, the Nine-Sun Sword Sage died with the great demon. In this generation, Lin Xian killed the great demon. In the end, the great demon summoned the first-generation demonic shadow, which almost killed him. If he did not have the eye of space and time, they would have perished together. It seemed like the Black Mountain Great Sage and the Sikong Grand Sage were in a similar situation. The two of them had been entangled for many years, and in the end, they perished together. However, the Black Mountain Great Sage had left behind a remnant soul. So what if you tell me the secret? Even if I know that you are the remnant soul of a great sage, do you think I will stop? Lin Xian's face darkened again. Of course, although I am the remnant soul of the Black Mountain Great Sage, I have been entangled with the Sikong Grand Sage for too long. That is why I have the Sikong Grand Sage's memories. If you want the complete legacy of the Sikong Grand Sage, I might not be able to give it to you. However, if you want to take the Great Sage Tower, I can do it. How about it, kid? Let's make a deal. I will help you take the Great Sage Tower, and you will spare my life. Take the Great Sage Tower? Lin Xian took a deep breath, his eyes burning. In truth, although he was tempted by the Sikong Grand Sage's legacy, he did not really need it. He had the 9 sons and the great dragon sword spirit, 2 great legacies. It was enough for him to cultivate to the Great Sage level. However, the treasures in the Great Sage Tower were indeed very tempting. After all, his current resources were far from those of the Dragon Valley and the 8-Wind Hall. However, if he had the Great Sage Tower, it would be different. It could make up for the difference in resources. Therefore, Lin Xian was tempted. However, it was impossible for him to let the other party go so easily. Let him go? It was not that he could not, but 1 Great Sage Tower was not enough. You have ambushed me 3 times. 1 Great Sage Tower. I can't spare you from death. Unless, damn kid, don't push your luck. The Black Mountain Grand Sage roared. He wanted to fight back, but he was beaten back again. In the end, he was like a deflated balloon. He looked at the great dragon sword spirit, his eyes filled with fear. Damn kid, tell me. Unless what? Simple. Stay by my side and assist me when necessary. Help me for 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, I will set you free. What? You want to imprison me for 1,000 years? Dream on. The Black Mountain Grand Sage trembled in anger. Although he was only a spirit and was badly damaged, he was still so angry that he vomited blood. Lin Xian sneered. If you don't agree, I will destroy you now. At most, I will give up the tower. When I am strong enough, I will take it. F***CK, you win. However, I can only assist you for 100 years. 500 years. Lin Xian stretched out a hand. Not 1 day less. If you're not willing, then there's nothing to talk about. 500 years it is. The Black Mountain Grand Sage gritted his teeth. Although it would take another 500 years, it would be good for him to regain his freedom. Let go of me, kid. I will use the corpse of the Great Sage. The Black Mountain Grand Sage said. Lin Xian shook his head. No, you can't take the corpse of the Sikong Grand Sage. I have use for it. Therefore, you have to find another place to stay. Damn kid, you are infuriating me. The Black Mountain Grand Sage trembled in anger. However, he had no choice. He could not defeat the other party. Moreover, he knew the power of the great dragon's sword spirit. Even if he was the great Holy Azure, if this brat was determined to kill him, he would still be able to kill him bit by bit. Then I will take that. The Black Mountain Grand Sage flew out and turned into a ball of black mist. Then he rushed towards one of the seals. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.